Fear not, for you are found. You are home and there is no going back. No one leaves this place. But what is this place? The answer is the Big Show. A live stream for gamers. Minus the boring parts. The show lives on the edge of the known and unknown. It is a direct democracy, and Players Club members decide what happens next. The Players Club is the place for all things searching to be part of something greater. Like you. And here on the show you are significant. You are valuable. Here, you are loved. And no one loves you more than the TuxedoBandido. He is the original. The first player one. The creator of the show and father of the Players Club. Where once you were lost, now you are part of something. You are part of the Big Show. Congratulations. You will meet the TuxedoBandido in 5 seconds. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. You are now meeting the TuxedoBandido.
And we're live. What's going on, Bandidos? Sunday, November 27th. Just past 4:30 in the PM, hailing from Pacific Northwest, coming at you at Thanksgiving weekend. What's going on, Bandidos? I hope you, or those of you that were in the US at least, ate tons of turkey, had a little bit of ham, and are now enjoying your leftovers. I know I did. I had my fill, that's for sure. Really enjoyed the time with the family and appreciate you guys giving me the time to do so. In today's live stream, it's sort of a special one because we got sort of a lot, after a sort of a quiet week, we have a lot coming at us over the next week, and there follows, if everything does land on schedule, fingers crossed, but we do know things have the tendency to change from time to time, but looking forward, looking positive. I think we got some cool things to look forward to. Anyways, let's get into the topic of the day primarily, which we will be focusing in on the Golden Bullet event. And for more than one reason. One of the reasons is it starts tomorrow, 1 day and 7 hours, or I'm sorry, the day after tomorrow, Monday that is, depending on where you're watching from. You might be in the UK, so that could be your tomorrow. Yeah, so Monday this thing kicks off. If you're not familiar with the Golden Bullet, it's basically a buff on the offense side. There's not any real defensive attribute to it. You can look at the event details, but it doesn't really explain much in here right now. But there will be a rewards track where you can get some fun caches and of course some challenges to go with this. And then the Golden Bullet itself is basically the enemy will try to chamber a golden bullet, and there'll be a golden bullet icon over them. So I'll go over this real quickly. And so if you kill that enemy, then you get the golden bullet buff, which is basically amazing damage, an RPM lift, and it's a dramatic one, as well as some weapon handling buffs too, and one of those being an automatic reload on kill. And that automatic reload on kill replenishes your mag at full, and that ammo that it uses does not deplete your ammo reserves and from your backpack or whatever. So that's really cool. It's basically free ammo, auto reload. Big deal there, because a lot of people just play into the front end of this, which is just that damage part. But the auto reload is a really big deal. And if you think about this event from that perspective, what other builds really shine when they get an automatic reload? We're going to talk about that a little bit today and give you some build ideas. And so the idea here is to chain kill. And the reason why is because if you chain kill, you can basically speed up everything that you do. And so chain killing refreshes the golden bullet buff once you get it. So you can basically get the golden bullet off of the first enemy. So every random or so enemy will try to get this golden bullet. There's usually 2 or 3 out on the field at a time at most, from what I noticed, but there's a variable there. And so once you capture that golden bullet, you can maintain it for the entire control point. And that's pretty amazing. And so you could clear control points like 2.5 to 3 minutes realistically, it could go faster, but it just takes time for the enemies to spawn and to go from their spawn door to, you know, your line of sight. And so, and if you were trying to run to that spawn door, it just takes time for you to get there. But literally 2.5, 3 minutes on almost every control point. Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And so why do we care? Why do we want to go quickly? Because going fast means more XP. Killing more enemies per hour means more XP. Clearing more content per session means more XP. And what's cool about these events, like the Golden Bullet, is that they dish out red stars. You get red stars from completing challenges, and you get red stars by simply leveling up your character while the Golden Bullet is activated. So 1 SHD point on your watch is 1 red star. There's no cap to red stars in this game. In fact, there's people in this stream that have gotten over 2,000 red stars during a global event, which I think is ridiculous. I'm not sure if you can do that anymore. I don't know if it's feasible anymore, because I think a lot of that was a floor 10 exercise, which is probably one of the reasons why they took that away from us. But I think they were spending a lot of time in the summit on floor 10 to get the 2,000 red stars. I'm almost sure of it. They would turn on 8 to 10 directives, helps you level up really quickly, basically a level every 30 seconds for the most part. So anyways, it's crazy. It's crazy. So once you get your red stars, the reason why they're valuable is because they're a form of currency. And so when you get your red stars, you go up to the season vendor. It's not open right now. It's only open when there's an active event, which there is not. You go in here and there'll be a menu in which you can buy named item caches or whatever you want. Exotic caches. Basically every cache is available to purchase. And so myself, I try to get 160 red stars, so that way I can purchase at least 20 named item caches. That's really all I'm interested in. But some of you might be really interested in leveling up your character's expertise. And so if you don't know what expertise is, it's basically an increase in a single attribute that you can add to any particular weapon or gear item. And for example, I have an expertise of 12 on my regular exotic pistol, so I get 12% more weapon damage. Pretty neat. So for those of you that are interested in that and increasing your expertise, the global events are really important, because those red stars, if you don't need anything like named item caches or whatever, then those red stars you can use to purchase exotic caches, which you can then crush for exotic components, which then make it just a little bit easier to level up more items to max expertise. And so it costs 20 red stars per exotic cache, which in my opinion is kind of expensive, but if you really don't want to do named item caches, or you're really interested in expertise, then that's your grind. But for me, I'm still into named item caches. Even though I have almost everything, I still like to get some variations. So that's what motivates me. Otherwise, I just like the events. I like having fun, and this particular one is extremely fun. And as I mentioned earlier, we are gonna have this one that starts in the day, and then we're gonna have another one right behind it, and it says 4 weeks and 1 day, but each of these events lasts for a week. So that means this one is 3 weeks away. Well, once this global event ends is what I mean. So there's a 3-week gap in between these two global events. So that's pretty cool. So these are not part of season 10. These are what they're calling a winter holiday celebration, winter celebration thing. It's a Christmas gift, I think, is what they're referring to. They did mention in a post that they had some presents for us, and I think these are what the presents are, is what I'm guessing. But really, this is a gap filler because they have a delay in content. So they've given us these extended global events or extra global events to kind of keep us busy. But also that's great for us. I'm happy about that. And they look like they're back-to-back global events if you're looking at that. So they're all a week long, right? So pretty neat. So this is winter celebration also. Yeah. And so one of the things I want to point out is that in season 10, they didn't have have the reanimated event. And I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it's usually in every season. That was disappointing for me and for many of you, because I know most of you, well, not most of you, but some of you think the reanimated event is your favorite, and it's my favorite too, actually. I prefer it over the Golden Bullet. The Golden Bullet is flexible to more builds, that's for sure, but I really have a lot of fun with headshot builds, and reanimated event caters to that. So they didn't have that. So the winter celebration kicks off with the reanimated event. It's gonna last a week, and that's actually 1 week from today. So as soon as this event ends, it starts on Tuesday, and then it ends the following Monday night. As soon as this week ends, this one starts. So these are all back-to-back global events. So we're gonna be busy, because you know I love creating global event specific builds. And what I do, and what we're gonna see some of today, is that I take some of our favorite builds in the game and I tailor them specifically for the golden event. The global event. And that's because, for example, you get such a major damage buff from Golden Bullet. Like, why go out there with unnecessary overkill damage, right? Why not give yourself some more survivability so that you can play faster, or more weapon handling so you reload faster, or land more shots on target, because you don't need any more damage, because the Golden Bullet gives you mega godly buffs. And it's not a little thing. It's not a little bit of damage. It's dramatic. It is absolutely dramatic. So dramatic, you really don't need any other damage on your build. And so what I encourage you to do is explore and to break your comfort zone, get outside the box, have fun, go crazy, test the limits of your build, test the limits of your play style. That's what these events are really, really fun, or known for, really, I guess. I mean, you'll notice that. Go out there with your favorite all red build, you know, and then start stripping away some of that damage, and you'll realize you don't even notice. And so that's a good sign that you can stretch the capabilities of whatever build and add tons of defense or whatever. And by doing so, you can be able to get out there more, play faster, run and gun more, or whatever. And if that's not something you normally do, because maybe it's outside of your comfort zone, so these global events give you an opportunity to explore different styles of play that may last for you, maybe an enduring way to play and enjoy this game. And when you enjoy new play styles, it really extends this game for you. It opens up a whole new set of builds and weapons that you didn't use before. So after this event, we're gonna have the final target. This is one that was pushed back, so we were expecting this 2 weeks ago or whatever, a week ago. So this is on delayed, and so on delay, so this one will unlock in a week. That's the same time Reanimated is unlocked, so keep mental note of that. And then 2 weeks after that, or 2 weeks from now, a week after that, we're gonna have the Lucky League. This is basically those little speedrun things. But look, the Dark Path Apparel event, which was also delayed, is also pushed out for a week from now. So think about that for a second. Okay, so we're gonna be, this is what I mean by we're gonna be busy, which I wish it was a little bit more spread out, but that makes this next couple of weeks really big. So we have Golden Bullet all week, and this week is gonna fly, folks. It's gonna fly. I mean, we're gonna have fun. I got builds for you to kick off the event. And so I have a build video dropping in the morning, and we're gonna go over some of the builds here, give you a preview of that. But I have a full build video, and it's a lengthy one. It's not a 5-7 minute build video. I'm giving you multiple builds in a single video. And so that's gonna drop in the morning. And remember, people grind. You wanna grind this event. Grind it. You know, get red stars, get XP, or just, you know, use that buff to get lots of XP, which is going to help you get more resources if that's what you're into, whatever. Even if you're not into the red stars. But people grind this event because it's fun, and it helps you level and clear content faster, and it helps you experiment with different builds, right? And so, so people are going to be grinding for this event, so you want to go into it ready. You want to have those builds sort of ready, you know what I mean? You don't want to spend the first couple of days tinkering to the point where, I mean, you can, but where you're not playing efficiently. You want to get out there and have fun. you know, and so you don't want to learn halfway through the week that, oh wow, I could have stripped off all of this damage, I didn't need it. You know what I mean? So what I'm here to do is to help you get started by giving you some suggestions. You know, of course you don't have to run these builds, but they're gonna help you break some of the boundaries when you're creating your builds, some of those limitations that you might have in your mind, because this event doesn't make this normal content. But anyways, really busy, so that's a week. This is gonna fly because we're gonna give you builds to start with, and I'm gonna give you builds throughout the event, and I'm gonna probably stream this on the daily. All right, so we're probably gonna be streaming Golden Bullet on the daily. When we hit my favorite events, that's how it is, so just get used to it. So Golden Bullet, Reanimated, and Golden Bullet again, we're probably gonna have daily streams, so that's 21 streams right there. We're gonna be busy, and I'm glad to do it because I love those events, and so I wanna share my experiences with you guys. And so, but what's crazy is that as soon as that ends, daily streams, this starts, and this starts, and this starts. So we have 3 events starting all in the same week, and that's next week. That's 1 week from today, basically, a week and a day. So that's crazy. That's a big week. And what also comes with this, okay, is really the end boss, right? So target, when you kill Lucky, you get access to the end boss, which is going to get access to what? The Doctor's Home. So the Doctor's Home is the new exotic M1A that we've all been looking forward to, and they tied it to the manhunt. So that's the first time we've seen that. And because they delayed this manhunt, they delayed that exotic for us. So lots of details here. I know I'm being a little bit thorough. You're like, show me the builds. Let's get some fun. So yeah, we're gonna get right into that here in just a second. So Dark Path Apparel event, also looking forward to this, especially that baby face thing. I think that's nice and creepy, and that's how I like to roll from time to time. So looking forward to that. So yeah, apparel event, keys, you know, it's something like level up. Every 4 levels, you get a key. And so the last one was kind of buggy, and so I think they're trying to work out the bugs for this one. That's why it was delayed. And then Reanimated event will also be happening while all this other stuff is happening. So that usually means what, guys? The Reanimated, why is it my favorite? Because it's the most XP out of all of the global events. And that's because it focuses on headshots. And so if you create builds for that, you can clear content even faster, right? Because you're using like maybe marksman rifles or pistols or shotguns, and you one shot, one kill. There's no faster time to kill than that. And so you can clear control points really fast, 2-3 minutes also. And headshots give you more XP. Chain killing with headshots gives you even more XP, right? While in the global event. What does that mean? That you can be getting that Dark Path Apparel event, the cash keys, hopefully even faster, because you're going to be layering it with the Reanimated event, which is going to help you level up quickly. And so events like this make it really easy to turn on all directives. That's also why we get extra XP. So 25% more XP per directive. So 4 directives is 100%. 25% or 20%? I think we're right. 25, right? So that's a ton. And then I forgot to mention that for the even the Golden Bullet, all the builds that I like to share with you do consider global directives. And for the heroic content, open world, it's usually the best place to farm. Where do you guys like to farm when you're playing these events? Do you guys drop your map to challenging? Some people farm just resource convoys. Some people do the summit. I don't think you can do countdown with these events. I don't think countdown works with Golden Bullet and stuff. Remind me if I'm correct me if I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty sure the global events don't work in there. I haven't personally tried, but I did go in there once or twice in one of these global events, and I don't believe it carried over. But yeah, so some people do the summit. Some people turn on all directives and do heroic control points. Most of us avoid legendary, and that's because the amount of XP you get for the length of time you invest in the legendary mission, even if you do them quickly, isn't as much as you would get by doing like heroic or challenging with directives. So, or even without directives. So for me personally, I love just doing the control points. I love doing open world activities, and I love loading on directives with these events, but not to the point in which they're slowing me down. So if I move faster with 4 directives instead of 5, then I'll do that. I will go 4 directives. So most of these builds that I'm showing you today are 4 directives. which is, I don't know, what do you guys think? Is that a lot of directives? But so the gameplay footage that you're seeing here today is a really, really fun build. Actually, it comes from the Blitz build series. So if you're familiar with the Blitz build, it's a Hunter's Fury shotgun headhunter build, or headshot build, but it's a shotgun build. And this build series is so strong. With the original version, you can solo legendary with it, and you can even speed run legendaries with it. You see a lot of speedrunners teams using this version of this build to take on their speedrunning content, because it's just crazy powerful. And then I've adjusted it for heroic content and for general gameplay. So and then this version that you're seeing here today is even further adjusted for the global event. So it's not just a repurposed build, it is actually tailored to the global event. And I used it last season. So this build, I did use it for season 9, and we'll see a little bit of that gameplay footage. But what's really cool about it is I was able to actually review the footage, the gameplay footage from season 9, and that helped me make a more efficient build for season 10. So let me show you what the build looks like here real quick, just a high level at them for the moment. But this is basically what the build looks like. Now it's different than last season, and I'll poke some of the holes. But do you guys remember this dealio here? So this is that most epic fight ever video I put out. It was actually kind of a short, so I ended up speeding up a couple of parts, because this is one of those resource convoys, one of those unlimited sort of glitched resource convoy. And so if you haven't encountered one of these yet, holy shit, you're in for a surprise. They're absolutely fun, and it's still glitches. We just had one the other day during a live stream. I was playing with Athena and a couple of other folks, and this happened during the live stream just the other day, last week. So I know it's still, this is still a thing. So get out there and find your convoys. So convoys give you great XP, by the way, and XP is mostly evaluated on the quantity you're getting in comparison to the time you're investing in the activity. And so that's what determines what great XP is. So, anyways, this fight, this recorded fight actually ended up, which was always also during the live stream, as you can see in the top left. So this did happen during a live stream that was happening on Twitch, but it ended up lasting just over 8 minutes. 8 minutes of unlimited waves coming out of the back of the truck. So this is sped up just a little bit to cut down in some of that time. So keep that in mind. But this is the build that we're going to be looking at first today. And it's absolutely powerful. And so I reviewed this game, but look at the armor. Look at the armor on it. Look at the armor. And we're one-shotting these guys. If we can land that headshot. Some of them we're not. But one-shotting them even in the chest. Even in the chest. And that's the chain killer chest piece. But absolutely amazing. It was a crazy fight. So this is some of the sped up stuff. Some of these guys got away. But I was also being attacked by a neighboring activity. So that's those people shooting at me in the skirts. That's not actually people that escaped. That's a neighboring activity that's joining the fight, and they're also Black Tusk. So it's really annoying. So I'm having to fight on 2 fronts here. All right. And so it's made it absolutely an epic fight, because we were getting shot in the back almost the entire time. But because I was able to keep killing, then I was able to really, well, every time I got a kill, that just added to that survival. It was all that bonus armor. And that's just one of those things that shows like why the memento is really strong. So every time I got that kill, the memento would apply, and I got all that bonus armor. And that, in that particular, what should we call it? Footage, or last season, in season 9, I was running 1.5 million armor. So you can still run 1.5 million armor with this build. As a matter of fact, it probably will. And so it's just that I'm running it with 1.3 because, as you can see in the recorded gameplay, I don't have the golden bullet active because it hasn't started yet. So I was doing all this build testing and noticed like I'm running heroic content and I'm running 4 directives. So this is basically a no shield build. Now I am using my shield a little bit, mostly to acquire ammo because I have that directive on. And the other times I use my shield is when I really get like cornered in. But once we kind of get rearing, once we're in gear, then we're basically a no shield shotgun build. So that's basically what this is. It's a no shield shotgun build. And that's a little bit different than last season. And so that's one of the big variations. And so right here is showing you one of the variations. I decided to roll with sharpshooter. Now that's interesting, right? Because most of you wouldn't think about running sharpshooter on a Hunter's Fury shotgun build, right? You're probably thinking most people run maybe gunner just by default because it gives you 10% armor on kill, but we don't need any more armor on kill. We're running 1.3 to 1.5 million armor, and I'm running the memento backpack. What does that mean? Bonus armor. Bonus armor. Every trophy is going to give us 30% bonus armor. And so look at here, we're going to get foamed, we're going to get shot at while we're shooting the boss, and we get the trophy, and just enough to survive. And Hunter's Fury gives us what? Right? So Hunter's Fury also gives us the 20% armor on kill by having 3 pieces, right? So we're getting 30% bonus armor and then 20% armor on kill. So that's an effective 50% armor off of a single kill. 50. Nuts. Right? Nuts. That's nuts. Sorry. It's nuts. Let me say it one more time. It's nuts. Come on down to mattress world. Sorry. So that Hunter's Fury is super strong. And so to pair it up with sharpshooter is like, what? And so the sharpshooter TAC 50 is basically a shortcut. But it's also adding to our arsenal because as you can see, all of our primary weapons and our sidearm are short range weapons and extremely short. I mean, the pistol does pretty decent at range actually, but these are really short. I'm talking like inside 10 meters. Even an enemy at 15 meters is horrible. You're missing shots. You're clipping them technically at 15 meters. Now with golden bullet, that's going to improve actually. You can snipe with the shotgun and golden bullet. No, not really. But the weapon handling tightens the spread. So it's going to be a little bit easier to pull in closer to 20 meters, but that's still a little bit of a stretch. So this is giving me a scope and it's allowing me to pick off maybe dangerous targets. So if you want to pick off that guy with the golden bullet, pull out your TAC 50 and tag him in the face. All right. Now, before you get, if you don't have any memento stacks, it's actually gonna like almost not kill him. Okay, so you got 2.2 million armor, and so if you don't have the golden bullet, no buffs. Okay, at range, I'm sorry, 2.2 million damage. At range, this is gonna almost kill an elite, but not quite. Non-elites, it's not an issue. Now, inside 15 meters, because of the damage buff from Apex Predator, which is 20% amplified damage over 15 meters, that's not an issue. And also, that aside, even at range, once you get a couple of backpack trophies, then it's also no longer an issue. You know, and I'm not sure exactly how many, maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 trophies, because this alone is almost killing enemies. And we're running 3 armor cores. Keep that in mind, 3 armor cores. So this is almost killing the enemy. We got 4 red cores here. Okay, so when we pick up a trophy, that's going to give us 20% weapon damage bonus. And then we're going to have 30% weapon damage when we're at full stacks. And that's, again, in addition to the 20% amplified damage. And then we're going to get 5% amplified damage stacking, okay, up to 5 times. And so that's actually greater than 25 times because of how multiplicative damage works, which this is. It's amplified damage. So that's, and I'm not sure exactly, I don't have the exact number memorized, but it's actually greater than 25% amplified damage there because of the way that stacks. So it's over 45% amplified damage. And now the amp on kill stacks only last 10 seconds, but that's good. This build is a high risk, how do we say, high risk, high reward. And so you're encouraged to play quickly. That's the way the build is working. So as you can see, I barely have any memento trophies, but we were able to take him out with a single shot outside of the damage buff range of Apex Predator. And then from there, as I mentioned, it's just shortcut. Now I'm one-shotting these guys, right? And if I can land that shot in the head just like that, then I can chain kill. And so as you can see, I'm trying to move without the shield. Really, the shield is a hindrance. It slows you down, and your objective is to move as quickly as possible. And so this is a good time to gain some experience in the game. The reason why this works and a lot of its success is going to be from your flanking patterns. So if you're not doing a good job of flanking the enemies, kind of staying just outside, trying to take the way I call it, my definition of flanking in this game and the way I'm using the term is basically to take the most direct path to the enemy while staying just barely outside of their field of vision, so they don't see you coming until you're right on their ass. So notice each one of these enemies I'm executing, they don't know I'm there. So those starting from the first guy I just shot, and not until you're right on their ass. Look, I'm still on her and out of her line of sight, and that adds to my survivability. That's what's allowed me to not need my shield. You know, so sometimes if I get in trouble, I'll pop my shield real quick. Not a problem. It's gonna happen. You're gonna get cornered. You're gonna get jumped. You're gonna get overrun sometimes, and so that's why I decided to go with the bulwark shield. But this build, if you're not good at flanking, then you might struggle a little bit with this build. So use this as an opportunity to get better at flanking. SMGs, pistols, rifles, if you're playing them kind of in a run and gun style, shotguns, they all need this type of gameplay style. They all need a little bit of flanking to happen. So if you'll notice that I'm always trying to stay out of their line of sight. And then when I'm not, or when I need to hold them still, I'm using the riot foam. So that's a really important little feature of this build, and it's also new. So those are two new things. So what I was trying to say is that you saw from that recorded gameplay footage where I'm using this build with Golden Bullet, that you saw that I was running Firewall. And so Firewall gives you that striker shield, which gives you more damage, at least 12%, for every enemy standing in front of you. So you can get massive, 12, 24, 36, right? Because we're always jumping groups. But what I realized after reviewing the gameplay footage from that same video, right? That recorded video, I mean, like, I'm so strong here. Like, I'm actually not gonna replay that. Did we even need that extra damage? And I decided the answer was no. And then I tested this during heroic gameplay with 4 directives, and that's the gameplay footage you're watching. It's 4 directives, heroic, right? And I have no golden bullet buff, and we're one-shotting elites and bosses. We're one-shotting bosses, and so we're gonna see that here too. And so that's amazing. So that's with 1.3 million armor, and you might be able to do with 1.4 million armor, and that's thanks to the TAC 50. Okay, so the TAC 50, Hunter's Fury, very strong combination. You actually see this in those legendary speed runs. So it's not like ultra unique, but the way we're using it is also a little bit unique, because we're using it to hurry up headhunter. So the chest piece, let's get into that, is Badger Tough. All right, so, and that's giving us 10% shotgun damage, because that's what we're using as our primary. And so I don't always whip out the TAC 50, so we'll kind of, so if I do duff a shot, land one on the chest, I don't immediately go for the TAC 50. So I continue to use my shotgun many times. And so it might take 1 to 3 shots to reacquire that headhunter stack. So that's why we want more power, as much power as we can, to Badger Tough. And the TAC 50 is strong enough to one-shot elites with 1.3 million armor. So we don't need any additional damage to the special weapon. We need it to our primary weapon. So we're gonna get into the primary in a second. But I got armor regen, armor, shotgun damage, and then I'm loaded up with headshot damage. You basically want to be going for headshots. You can run crit versions of this. You can. But if you do that, you're probably going to want to run it like a Cheska chest piece, and then not the memento, because I think you're going to need the secondary attribute slots to get as much of that crit as possible. So I really like the damage buffs, and the defensive buffs are really important for the memento. We'll talk about that, as well as the the skill efficiency. So anyways, if you don't have a good Badger Tough chest piece, I recommend you go out there and get one. It's really important for a lot of builds, but especially the Headhunter builds. I make a lot of these. They're a ton of fun. So anyways, it's not that hard to farm. So all you're looking for, if you don't have headshot damage, don't sweat it, guys. Don't sweat it, because again, this global event is going to buff you. All right, but what we are looking to do, so Headhunter has a cap, right? So the damage is capped at 800% of your weapon damage. This is raised to 1,250% if you have your headshot damage over 150. And as you can see, I have 151% headshot damage. It's right on the money, right on the money. So there's no real others, anything else really in here, right? So we're loaded up with amplified damage. So my point is that if you can't get a Badger with headshot damage, you might fall a little bit short on headshot damage, because as you can see, all these pieces have headshot damage on them. So if you're falling a little bit short, just go ahead and go with a Providence here. All right. And so, and falling short might dictate which shotgun you're running. A good segue actually. So it's really important, if you want to one-shot these guys, that you go with one of the stronger shotguns, like this military M870 that I've decided to do. One of my faves, actually. The KSG shotgun is also really good for this event, and that's because it's got 12 rounds in the mag, which is even, I would say, actually a better way. I just sort of like the M870's weapon handling, but it sort of becomes a moot point at and once the golden bullet is active, because it gives you a weapon handling buff. So but notice I have, in order to get that mark, I'm rolling headshot damage mods. So I got 3% headshot damage here. I got reload speed there, and then 5% headshot damage there. So I'm running 8% headshot damage on the shotgun. So it barely gets us over there. But that buff is really important, because the Headhunter buff, because that's what's giving us our chain killing capabilities. Okay, that's what allows us to take out a named boss in a single shot. So I'm running Pummel. All right, so Pummel is really important. So 3 consecutive kills are going to give us 40% weapon damage, which is not a little thing. So 3 consecutive kills gives you 40% weapon damage for 10 seconds. Okay, so everything on the build is 10 seconds. You get 10 seconds of Pummel, 40% weapon damage. You get 10 seconds per trophy that you pick up, right? So you get 10 seconds of trophy bonus armor, and that's also giving us 20% weapon damage bonus. So every third kill, you're gonna have at least 50% weapon damage bonus if you get from that trophy, right? Which some of these you're stacking trophies, so it's actually gonna be more, but at least 60%. Did I say 50? I meant 60. Excuse me. So on top of the bonus armor and the skill efficiency. So that's pretty cool. Anyways, what you're also going to get is an automatic reload on 3 kills. Now, because in this gameplay test footage, right, that you're seeing here, there's no golden bullet, so I don't have that automatic reload. Because of the automatic reload from golden bullet, I might not. I'm sort of on the fence on if I want to run Pummel, and so I'm thinking I probably will, because it's still the greater damage, but you can also run close and personal. So close and personal is going to give you 30% damage off of a single kill, and that also lasts for 10 seconds, but you don't have to wait for 3 kills, and you can get the auto reload on basically kill anyways. But 30% is not 40%, and there's still the kills in between the golden bullets. Like sometimes you just can't find somebody with the golden bullet. So, you know, I don't know. It's the same. It's different. It's the same. So I don't know exactly which one I'm going to run in the end. But last season I ran close and personal, and I was pretty happy with it. But I'm still on the fence. But Pummel is more useful most of the time outside of the event. So, you know, you can just kind of stick with that just for continuity reasons, I guess. But yeah, so that's 2 changes right there. So we're not running close and personal. Or 3 technically changes. We're running 1.3 million armor instead of 1.5, but that has nothing to do with the build there. That just has to do with the fact that I'm not running a gold event right now. Here comes a boss. So watch how I use a boss. kill these bosses. So I use the shotgun to bust his belt, the first shotgun, and then I'm using the rock and roll to finish him off. And so with the golden bullet, that's going to be a little bit easier of a task, but pretty easy, as you can see. No shield, and that's one of the tankiest bosses in the game, right? So one of the tankiest bosses, especially in heroic, right? Outside of legendary. And so the heavy gunners are hard to kill. And so I hit him with the one shot to break his belt. And then I finish him off with my backup weapon, which is the rock and roll. And that's the only time I'm using the rock and roll, guys. So I'm only using the rock and roll on those real tanky targets. With golden bullet, this becomes a little bit more, I don't know, realistic of a weapon, I guess is the best way to put it. You know, it's quite weak for a shotgun, right? And so it's really hard to, well, you can still play out of cover with this, you know, just hammer down an enemy, but the time to kill takes too long, so it can get you in trouble when you're out of cover. But the way we're using it, it's just fine. It's just fine. Isolated situations, basically. So I do have a crit version of this build. And so if you go all crits, like crit chance, crit damage, then you can actually use the rock and roll as your primary and not have to worry about headshots at all, if that's the way you want to roll. So it's easy, you know, easier. It's easier. So it might be better for those of you that want to get into shotguns, but you're not quite warmed up to that style of gameplay. This could be a little bit easier for you. It's like sort of like running an assault rifle build in a way. So as a matter of fact, you can run an assault rifle with Hunter's Fury. Shit, put on the Chameleon. Put on the Chameleon, right? We've all done that. It's amazing. Any assault rifle is amazing with Hunter's Fury. You guys agree? What are your thoughts there? I don't know. So and then when I get into trouble or to kick off the fight, because I do have Pistolero, I'm using the Regulus. So the Regulus is going to basically, I mean, it's without any headhunter stacks, it's not going to one-shot, one kill just right off the cuff. But because it's a weapon that you're using inside that 20 meters, you're going to get the amplified damage right there, and that's really helping this pistol out a lot. But basically, I'm just using it to get out of a jam or to give me some ammo. So what's really cool about this build is we're actually not using much ammo at all. So once I get a little stock of ammunition, then it tends to last the entire fight. Again, with golden bullet, you're going to get replenished on ammo, so it's not much of an issue, not an issue we're talking. But I recommend this build outside of the global event too. So I'm really enjoying it. I had a ton of fun creating this gameplay footage while I was testing this build. So you guys know I'm going to actually post this gameplay footage in a separate video. And so I ran over an hour's worth of content back to back. So this is unedited gameplay footage back to back. And control points, and I didn't die once with 4 directives playing this way, which is not the easiest thing, I gotta say, you know what I mean? But that's the survivability of the that just demonstrates the survivability of the build. A little bit, you gotta know your flanking patterns as well, but land some shots from time to time. But look at that bonus armor right there, allowing me to take some heat. The shield gets us out of pickles that we tend to get ourselves into, and then Hunter's Fury gives us amazingly fast recover. Remember, the Hunter's Fury plus the Memento equals 50% armor on kill. So you guys know what I mean by that? Is that kind of obvious? So the Memento, let's take a quick look at it. So 10% bonus armor per kill. That's per core. Okay, so we got 3 blue cores, so 10% bonus armor per core. So Hunter's Fury gives us 20% armor on kill. So 10% bonus armors is 30 plus 20% armor on kill. From that is takes us to 50. So we get an effective 50% armor on kill. 30% of that will disappear after 10 seconds. But the reality is it's pretty easy to get a kill in 10 seconds. And we're also stacking those. So at times we have 30, 60, 90, 120% bonus armor. And then we're getting the 20% armor on kill. And sometimes we don't even need it. So that's what I mean when I say we have 50% armor on kill. It's that combination. So the skill efficiency, did you guys see that I'm using the Riot Foam? And so the Riot Foam is one of my favorite things. So that's new for this build. So we didn't run that last season for the golden bullet, so we've now added that to the build, as well as that bulwark shield, right? So last season we ran the striker shield. Now we're running the bulwark, and that's because I'm trying to go shieldless, and we don't need the damage from the striker shield. So we get our buff from the TAC 50, and then we go around headshotting fools, and so tons of fun. What can I tell you? So, anyways, the riot foam helps you land some of those headshots. It also just kind of cuts off the bull, but it also gets you out of trouble when you need it. So when you're getting flanked, like right there, I had a guy on my flank, so I riot foamed that first enemy. It allowed me to get to the guy that's flanking me. Right here is a perfect example of that riot foam at work. And then I riot foamed him, of course. And so, and we were just out of armor almost, and as you can see, we got most of that back. Again, that armor and kill. That being said, you can also run preservation on your shotgun for another 20% armor on kill, which is actually not a bad idea because you don't really need the damage buff from pummel, to be honest with you. Not with the golden bullet. Outside of the golden bullet, I needed it. So, well, I needed the reload, but with the golden bullet, you don't really need it. So, consider pummel for more survivability, which might mean you're able to play even a little bit faster. But you're probably also going to run, or you have the option to run an additional armor core, so you might not need it. You just get, you know, you can be powered up everywhere. So whatever. If you don't need the damage and you don't need the the defense, what do you do, right? What do? You just keep the damage? In the golden bullet event, I don't know. That's a good question. Like, if you don't need the damage and you have enough survivability and you have enough damage, you have overkill, then where do you drive efficiency into the build? And I would probably say I'd probably err to the side of more defense. You know what I mean? Because these enemies, they considerably outpower you. They outman you and outpower you considerably, right? So as you can see, watch this here. We're about to one-shot a boss, okay, in a second here. And so that's with this build without golden bullet. So if you can do this without golden bullet, here's a boss. One-shot him. And so pretty easy. So if you could do that without the golden bullet, just imagine with golden bullets can be easier. So I already have too much damage. And that's with 1.3 million armor and 4 directives. That's nuts. That's nuts to say that, right? And so, but I'm happy with where the damage is. So I'm not going to take away anything here without golden bullet. But for golden bullet, I don't know. I'll probably actually consider running preservation, and maybe even add. I'll probably push this to the limit and probably add that extra armor core on top of that and see if we can get away with it. Can you imagine this with 1.5 million armor, and then if we're running preservation, that would give us 70% armor on kill over 5 seconds because we're going for the head, right? So that's 20% more from preservation because of that. So we get 20% armor on kill from Hunter's Fury, 30% bonus armor on kill from Memento per kill, and that stacks. And then another 20% from preservation, that'd be 70% armor on kill. I mean, talk about being able to play aggressive. But if you're not used to these types of builds, then you're probably, you might want to go that way anyways. Give yourself a little more wiggle room. But here, look at our armor here. So that's when I pull out the shield, as you notice, and the riot foam. So it gets me out of trouble, and that's one of the reasons. And look at our armor. Wow, right? And so remember, the Memento's giving us 3% armor regen on top of all that armor on kill. So that's a layer of resistance as well as recovery. And we're running lots of armor, so that's good armor regen there. So the riot foam's nice. And so, like I said, that's one of the reasons why you want to run the Memento. So for out of cover, the Memento, there's nothing better than a Memento for out of cover. But we are using the skill efficiency for that riot foam. So each one of those trophies is giving us a little push to our skill haste, a little push to our skill duration. So it's making that skill efficiency come back just a little bit faster and last a little bit longer. And so when we're at full stacks, we're going to get 30% skill efficiency. So that's helping the riot foam. The only skill tier I have is from the Memento. So think about that. and it's enough, right? It's enough. But the more riot foam you have, the content gets even easier. So instead of running an additional armor core, actually, now that I think about it, I'd probably run an additional skill tier. I know, and that will make this build, I'm laughing because that will make this build look like a monster, right? You're like, oh my God, you got 2 skill tiers, 3 blue cores, you're running sharpshooter, you got a bulwark shield, and it's a shotgun build. Yeah, absolutely. You know, absolutely. But look at how much I'm using that riot foam, right? It cuts out the bullshit, right? It's really a defense and an offense, right? So let me tell you why it's a defense and an offense, because defense, it keeps the enemies from shooting back at you, and it gets you out of flanking situations, right? The offense, it holds the enemy still so you can get technically a faster time to kill. You can focus in on the enemy, right? Or you can kill whole groups of enemy. I mean, if you have whole groups, you know, you don't need them to be stuck to riot foam forever, right? You just need them to be stuck for a quick second so you can blow up one of the guys with your pistol, right? And kill the whole group potentially, right? And so you'll see me using the riot foam a lot, and I only got 1 skill tier. And again, and that's because you don't need a long duration for headshot builds because you kill them so fast. They're just not alive long enough. So I think that's one of the things, actually, now that I think about it, instead of adding another armor core for golden bullet, I'd add another skill tier, and it'd go on this piece right here. So we'd have 2 skill tiers and 3 blue cores. I should have thought about that earlier, actually. So I mean, even if I was forced to maintain 4 red cores, which I'm not, I'd actually take out one of these blues and add another skill tier. The riot foam is a shield. Don't be confused. It's an offense / defensive shield. So it helps you clear content a lot faster. So pretty cool. Anyways, 1 skill tier here. We got 3 in a can. 3 cans. 3 cans. 3, not 3 in a can. And then here's this shield, which is pretty powerful. It's at 10 million health, and that's before the mementos. It's gonna give us skill efficiency. It's a tier 4 shield. If we add another skill tier, that'll make it a tier 5 shield, which is even more health. They have a very hard time breaking this. It can be broken, but it's gonna take a while. And we got some Pimp My builds today, and so we're gonna get a little bit more into that. But basically, the idea is to have enough power to kill an enemy in the fewest amount of shots possible. And so if your build has the right amount of power, you don't need an overly tanky shield. Don't think of these shields as if you're running, like, you know, a 6-piece legendary bulwark build, which nobody does, but you know what I mean, 4-piece bulwark build for legendary. That's not how strong you need this shield. If you're making a shield that strong, then you're overly relying on it, and you're not running a headshot build, because headshots kill the enemy within a single shot, up to 3 shots maybe. You know, when you're procced, you should be killing everybody with 1 shot. But when you're not, which is understandable, it's going to take a couple of extra shots, which is not a lot of time. So you should be able to kill any enemy standing in front of you in only a few shots. And even if there's multiple enemies, you take out, once you get that first guy killed with the headshot, now you got your headhunter buff, and each guy gets easier from there. So you don't need this shield to last very long. So 10 million is plenty, and it never broke. Not one time, not a single time did the shield break in an hour's gameplay with 4 directives. Never broke. So, and it's only going to get stronger. So Hunter's Fury is all the pieces are the same. Just to make sure I recap that: headshot damage, headshot damage, headshot damage, and then headshot damage. And then this will be the variable. You can either run armor here or skill tier, and I'm probably going to go skill tier. So that's basically the build setup for this one. So it's not difficult. Most of you probably already have Hunter's Fury in your stash, and so probably by default you went with crits, and so it's easy just to roll those crit pieces to headshot damage. And you could also craft some of this Hunter's Fury. I'm not sure if there's any limitations to the crafting as far as which pieces cannot be crafted, but still craft it. Yeah, so I didn't think, you know, this was one we added to the docket, to the build docket for Golden Bullet at the very end of season 9. I actually didn't think that we didn't think about this, but we started experimenting in the event around, God, what was it? Towards the end. But we started to realize, like, we kind of got outside because most people look at the obvious, right? Most people are like, oh my God, look at the RPM. It's absolutely amazing. There's a double right foam here. Think about this. We get ourselves out of this one here. This is where the shield is going to help. Speaking of unbreakable shields, right? So, but most people look at the obvious. They're like, oh, the RPM, and I do too, right? The RPM is amazing. What guns can benefit from the RPM? But this build is benefiting from the other two attributes. The damage, of course, but the auto reload is a big deal for shotguns. And it doesn't take it from your ammo pool. And so we started experimenting last season based off of the auto reload situation, you know, by thinking differently, right? And so that's where these events are really cool, because they get you to think differently, and that's really valuable in this game and enjoying this game and coming up with some really unique and, keyword here, effective builds. And I think that's my sweet spot. That's what I like to carve out as home when I'm creating my builds, is unique and effective, you know. But I don't like making unique builds for the sake of them being unique. That's why effective is a key word for me. Here comes another one-shot boss. Boom. Easy, right? So unique and effective, right? And so I can't say that this build's not effective for directives. You can go 5 too, but the other one's cool skills. That's the one I don't have on, and we're using the riot foam, and I don't want that to go on cooldown. So, but you could just not use the riot foam. And if I wasn't going to use the riot foam, I'd probably put on the striker shield. I'd actually use a striker shield because it'd be sort of a little more face tanking and less. I don't know. That way I can use my shotgun. I guess the best way to say it is that way I can use my shotgun while I'm in trouble and not have to resort to my pistol. And see, the bad side about switching to your pistol, although you're gonna have to do it, here's a good little chain kill series here. Boom, hold them so right here. Good example of why that riot foam is important. The bad part of switching over to your pistol is that when you switch out of your primary weapon, whatever that buff is going to reset. So in our case, it's pummel. And so when we switch over to our secondary weapon, like I just did, then we lose our pummel counter. So when we switch back, whatever progress we made towards pummel is now gone away. And so if you're gonna run the chameleon, same deal. When you switch over to your secondary or your sidearm, you're gonna lose that buff. Good question, Azrael. I've never actually tried the double barrel. I've been thinking about it. I mean, I would probably use, I don't know, you know, it'd probably pretty well. The truth is that like the 5, well, actually, let me say that you need 3 consecutive kills, and the double barrel is at most is only going to give you 2 kills before you have to reload, right? Obviously, because it's a double barrel. But the truth is the 5 rounds is actually pretty important, and it's borderline. And so that's why I use the KSG shotgun. I like the KSG shotgun also. And I do get torn between the two. I like the way the M870 handles a little bit better, but they're practically the same. But the KSG shotgun's a little bit weaker, but you will never notice. Right, it's like 1.4. It'd be like around 1.4 million on this loadout, which is this one's 1.6, so really close. The KSG shotgun comes with 12 rounds in the mag, and you absolutely don't need 12. But but it's enough buffer to help you with missed shots, which happens a lot. It happens a lot. Either you're too far out, and so right here, that's like I'm too far out for the shotgun right there, and so we were really close, but still too far for the shotgun. So I whipped out my TAC 50. plus to reproc the talent, right? But many times, even when you're standing right in front of the enemy, you're gonna miss shots. You clip them on accident. So what that means is, what I'm basically trying to say is that when you miss a shot, every missed shot gets you a little bit closer into a reload situation, which is enough to get you killed with these shotguns because their reloads are so slow. And so if you were using it, so you need those extra rounds as a buffer to help you not reload, get into an empty mag situation, because that really sucks with these shotguns. And it does happen from time to time, but it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare. 5 is borderline good enough to keep you away from those situations, and the KSG does a better job from keeping you from ever reloading. So, so the double barrel, as I say, if the idea is to not reload, Pummel's not going to technically. It can never be. You're always going to get into a reload situation, basically. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know if it works. I mean, I'm reloading anyways. It's not like I'm never reloading. I'm reloading every time I get a chance. So I'm not just sitting there waiting for Pummel to kick in. And so I reload in between fights anyways, even if it's only a shell or two. So, but I don't know. Good question though. But there's the other shotgun talent, Pumped Up, which I used for the first time the other day, and it actually worked out pretty good. Somebody here in stream was advising me to do it, but so here's another ACS shotgun. So I put out a couple extra shots here with the M870, but ASG shotgun's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to miss shots for standing right in front of these guys too, by the way. You'll learn that with some of these shotguns. Strong, but it's trying to tame a wild boar in your clutches. We'll take a quick look at this boss kill, and then we'll jump into the next build. And then I have also we got 3 Pimp My builds today. So one of them is from Sick Jim, who's usually first in the chat. This guy's like holds the world record for being first. My man, Sick Jim. And then we got another one from Mr. Rob Krauts. And then I got 3 Pimp My builds. And then I got another one from Was Good. And so all these boys are on Discord, of course. And that's how you get access to the Pimp My Build channel, is by being on Discord. So make sure you're over there on top of here. Being over here. So that's a little lag in the game. I don't know if you can catch that, but do you guys ever use shields and you pop the shield and it doesn't come out right away, so you hit your button again? I don't know, maybe it's just my controller. But so you'll see me pop, sometimes I'll pop the shield and then it goes back away right away, and I'm standing in front of like 5 enemies. So I'm getting shot in the back here, so keep that in mind. Killing while being killed. The boss has got special ammo, so that's a boss with special ammo right there, and that hurts. So imagine a boss with special ammo and the golden bullet, right? So that's why having more defense is not a bad idea, because those situations will happen. So here's where we use it as an offensive tool. One shot the boss. Boom! Tons of fun. Yeah, so loving this build. Let's take a look. So let's actually hop into the build video here real quick, okay, to get into the next build. So I'm gonna be doing in the build video, just to give you a heads up, a little warning, that I'm gonna be doing a little bit of hopping around in the video, because again, I have multiple builds in this build video, and the full build video is gonna drop tomorrow. So if I miss a detail or two, don't sweat it too much, because we're gonna drop the full build video. But let's give you a heads up here. Here we go. I'm going to give you 3 builds specifically tuned to get the most out of the Golden Bullet Global event in the Division 2. What? Actually, let me skip a little bit ahead here. Because I'm going to skip the intro. I already did this in the beginning of the video, but I talk about what the Golden Bullet is for the newcomers. And so here's the first build of the video. Arm this event, the builds I recommend allow for directives and for heroic content. And all the builds you're about to see I ran with 4 directives. That is 100% XP bonus. And I did this without the global event, without the serious damage buffs, RPM lift, and auto reloading. Since the event is giving you all of that at godly amounts, it's a great time to get outside of your comfort zone with your build. Experiment, have fun with it, test the limits of your playstyle and the build's capabilities. From my experience, this event's buffs are so strong, front loading too much damage leads to overkill anyways. So for the event, I like to create builds with the event buffs or debuffs in mind. And in this case, I redirect potential unused damage. So right here, pay attention to the striker stacks, okay? So I want you to know this was an epic fight. It was a beautiful fight. We cleared this content like record time on this control point here. I got 3 directives. This is the last season's directive. So we had Ragers, which made the enemies even tankier. That's what that little white circle is. So that's not part of this season. So that is last season. So anyways, look at the striker stacks, okay? Look at the striker stacks, and we're crushing these enemies. They're not they're dying too fast. Okay, that's a thing. And so I want you to pay attention to that, because it's going to go into the build. But they're dying so fast that what I realized, and I only realized this in watching the replay of the gameplay footage, right, is that they die so fast that Striker doesn't even have a chance to stack. And that's because of Golden Bullet, and the base of the build is too strong. So, or not, you know, I know there's no such thing as too strong, but there is. It creates this overkill situation. It was really rare we got our striker stacks to full in this entire control point with directives running it solo. So we get 100% of our kills here, 50 targets, and we couldn't get striker full. And so, but we were killing so fast we didn't care. But going into season 10, this season, this Golden Bullet, I reapproached this build, and that's what we're about to hear. To more survivability from armor, powering up skills, and faster recovery. And I know we have a great build in hand when it still rocks outside of the event. The first build is a striker hybrid. This build is proven to clear content quickly. The idea is to stake out your plot, hold your ground, and clear the entire control point without doing much running around. The gameplay you're seeing is the build version I used in season 9. Even without the Golden Bullet and 4 directives, this build can clear a control point in 3 minutes. With the buff, it's possible to go even faster. I'll break down the build and show you a little bit of gameplay without the event buffs too. So here's the modified build for the Season 10 Striker Hybrid. This hands down is one of my favorite hybrids, and it really shines in the Golden Bullet event. And that's because Striker, of course, is a very powerful gear set. So I ran this for the Golden Bullet Global event in the last few seasons. And because I was able to review the gameplay footage from previous Golden Bullet events using this build, I was able to actually optimize it a little bit further for this season. Now, the previous one was loaded up with crits, but I realized because of the build and the Golden Bullet event, we were overpowered. And if you pay attention to the gameplay footage, you will notice that the enemies died too quickly, and therefore we weren't getting very many striker stacks. And that's the striker gear set before they changed it. And so if you look closely in this gameplay footage, notice that the stacks never really get up super high, and that's because we're getting all this crazy damage coming in and the enemies just can't handle it. The max stacks on this version of the build was 100, and as you can see, sometimes we get close, but it's rare that we get there. It does happen, but it's just rare. So keeping that in mind, I decided to go with the same chest piece that I ran into earlier versions. So I'm running the Cheska chest piece with the skill tier. It's got crits everywhere and glass cannon. So yes, you don't have to run glass cannon, but remember, the golden bullet is going to power up your primary weapon and not your skills. Your weapon is going to be strong enough, and every time your skills get the kill or your weapons get the kill, you're going to extend that golden bullet. So it's important that your skills are strong because they're going to get that for you, as well as the 10% armor on kill. So one of the changes I made is to run with Gunner. We're running a Memento, so that's going to give us 3% armor regen, and if we were running more armor cores, we'd also get the bonus armor with that. But I thought, you know, with this one, it's just realistically going to be play from cover. But Gunner here, I'm not really worried about the ammo, although that's a little bit helpful. But remember, with the golden bullet and a continuation of golden bullet, you're going to refill your ammo and not pull from reserves. So the ammo is not really the issue. I'm really after that 10% armor on kill here. It's not a lot, but we're killing a lot. And we got the 3% armor regen, which is going to help when we get pounded into cover. And we have our skills that are basically acting as a cloaking device, which allow us to spend more time out of cover shooting instead of hiding. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on the Memento. Basically, you're going to, like I said, you're going to pick up your trophies for the most part when it's safe to do so. You're not going to be lacking any power up front. This is a very strong build. So on average, a control point has about 50 enemies. So you should be at full stacks before you finish your first control point. 30% weapon damage at full stacks, 3% armor regen, and 30% skill efficiency. And when you do grab a fresh trophy, if there is one close by, that's an additional 30% skill efficiency buff. We're using the capacitor. What makes it special is it has the highest damage to armor of all assault rifles. It also comes with health damage, so there's no damage to targets out of cover on this one. And then capacitance drives more power to the capacitor with every skill tier. And it's also giving us 60% skill damage. And then as you can see, we got 10% crit chance mod on this thing, as well as a 30% crit hit damage mod. So I got crit chance on the mask with skill damage in a skill tier. And then of course the Cheska is filling in some gaps there. And then I got another crit chance mod on the backpack. I'm at 54% crit hit chance. That's just because of the pieces that I had. I would try to get to 60. Do that if you can. 87% crit hit damage. The gloves is skill tier and skill damage. The knees are more of the same. And so is the holster. Everything looks the same. The original version had crits in all of those skill damage slots. So what I'm doing is redirecting some of that damage to the skills. The skills will get more kills as well as a primary weapon, and therefore making it easier to not only acquire, but to prolong the golden bullet throughout the entire control point. The next build is for Hunter's Fury fans. You might... Okay, I'm going to skip to the next build here. There's quite a few builds here, so I'm going to jump to the next one. Actually, let me see my time marker here real quick. Okay, skip ahead. There we go. All right, here's the next build in the series. I know, but we're running the mechanical animal as our primary. Oh, actually, let me go back to this a little bit more. Golden bullet build. This is a hybrid damage build for your skills and your primary weapon. It doesn't look like it. It looks a little crazy, I know, but we're running the mechanical animal as our primary weapon. I have crit mods all the way across and a larger mag. It's got damage to targets out of cover and future perfection. So weapon kills grant one skill tier for 19 seconds, stacks up to 3 times. After that, the next skill is going to give you overcharge for 15 seconds with a cooldown of 90 seconds. So that means you need to have 3 skill tiers already on your build. So we're running technician. That's giving us 1 skill tier. Then okay, quick pause here. So this is a variation. So this is a reimagined hybrid Umbra build, just to make sure we're clear of that. So a few weeks ago, I created an Umbra hybrid using the mechanical animal that was suitable for legendary content. I demonstrated some solo legendary. So this one is not only reimagined for heroic content specifically, okay, and that's because you encounter a lot more elites in heroic content, hence the gloves, right? So more damage to armor. And so to account for the whole second wave of control points is basically elites, right? Like 98% of them are elites. It's crazy high. So we're accounting for that. But also look at the skill tier situation. And so this is with 4 directives on heroic, and I'm running, I got 3 blues and 2 yellows. That's crazy, right? That's crazy. And so if I can get away with it in heroic and 4 control points, then imagine this build with Golden Bullet. So this is the first time we're seeing this build for Golden Bullet. So, and that's because the set didn't exist in season 9. And so when somebody asked me in the stream a few days ago, they were like, hey, what's going to be your favorite build for Golden Bullet that's coming up? And I was like, I'm thinking Umbra, right? Because what do we get? Fast kills, fast heals, and fun are probably like the 3 most important things to success in any build. In Umbra, it comes with that. It comes with that. Fast heals and fast kills. Striker doesn't do that. Striker's really strong. But the difference between this and Striker, okay? So with the Striker build that we just saw, I went with Glass Cannon on the chest piece. Why? You have other options. You don't have to go with Glass Cannon. You can go Kinetic Momentum. You can go Obliterate. But I was like, look, Glass Cannon doesn't, Striker doesn't bring any added survivability besides time to kill. And time to kill is part of survivability, but it's not all of the equation. It's not. And some people are confused by that. They say, oh, it's time to kill. That's the only thing. No, time to kill and time to heal equals, well, really, the best unit to measure is average time to clear, and that is content, average time to clear content. So a control point or a legendary, or how many activities did you complete in an hour of gameplay? Whatever your unit of measure is, it's an element of time. And it's not just time to kill. That's only one part of it. You need time to heal. The faster you recover, like Hunter's Fury, that Hunter's Fury gives you 20% armor on kill. You play faster with Hunter's Fury, right? Isn't that given? Striker's pretty fast, but Hunter's Fury is faster. It has to be. It has to be because you're playing inside 10 meters. So you have to have faster time to kill. You have to have faster time to heal, because otherwise you're going to have to stop and heal, and you're not going anywhere. You're going to get surrounded and dead. They're going to throw fire grenades on your ass, right? And so Striker is really strong. There's no doubt about it. It's strong, but that doesn't make it the best build in the game. And it's fast time to kill, fast time to heal. Right. And so, there's some elements of discussion there for sure. But for me, again, it comes down to fastest time to clear content. And some of these other builds like Umbra, I actually can clear content faster with, playing the same way. If they're all reds, doesn't put them all next to each other, all reds, they all have fast time to kill. You can't even tell the difference. You think you can. I know you do, but you really can't. You really can't. It's all placebo. It's placebo. And I know this because I do frame by frame tests, and I'm going to be sharing that stuff with you. But either way, the time to kill, time to heal element of Umbra is enough to kind of give it a little more edge than some of the other assault rifle setups like Ongoing Directive or Striker, because it allows you to play more aggressively. And so that's I've adjusted this build. So with the Striker build, like I was saying, I was running Glass Cannon, which gives it a big damage boost. But I made that decision because, hey, look, I'm pinned to cover anyways with Striker. Striker, you can play out of cover and you can run and gun with it, but there are quite a few times where you take a couple of bullets and it forces you back in cover, right? And then you got to heal, you got to wait to heal, you got to throw on an armor kit or something. And with Umbra Initiative, first of all, your noticeable offensive buffs are massive, right? They're noticeable, I guess is the word I wanted to say twice. But I get back in cover anyways. You got to get back in cover to reload or, from time to time anyways. And so you're always recharging, you're always healing, you're always recharging your offensive stats and consuming your defensive stats, which is healing and armor regen. So this build's got 40% armor regen. So anyways, with Striker, like I said, Glass Cannon, because I was already going to be pinned down to cover. It was really difficult. It's really difficult to add a ton of armor or add more survivability into Striker just because you don't have the slots for it. And so what it ends up happening, think about this, okay? I'm going to give you something to chew on here for a second, okay? So by adding more survivability to your Striker build, you're going to be sacrificing damage. And if you're sacrificing damage, to add on more survivability, aren't you just better off running Umbra Initiative? Because the added survivability that you can add to Striker is never going to equate to at least 40% armor regen over 5 seconds, which is 8% regen per second. 8% armor regen per second, up to 16 if you run a backpack. You're never going to get that out of Striker. You never. No way. No way. You can get armor on kill, sure. But that's massive amounts of armor regen. You never get that as Striker. So that aside, if you sacrifice damage to add survivability to Striker, aren't you better off with Umbra? and I know what the right answer is. And I mean, I don't want to say there's a right answer, but there sort of is, just logically. If you just kind of break it down logically, it's just like you are better off with Umbra. The time to kill difference is basically the same. It's basically the same. It's microseconds. It's like 1/6 of a second. 1/6 of a second. Okay, 1/6 of a second time to kill difference. That's in the testing range at 100% accuracy. Okay, so in the real world, in the in-game, there's no time to kill difference. As a matter of fact, many times Umbra has a better time to kill than Striker, right? It's situational. And the reason why it's situational is because the time to kill difference between Umbra and Striker is so small that in game, any one of them can have a better time to kill depending on the variables. That's crazy, right? That's crazy. Do you know what the max crit damage difference is between an Umbra and a Striker build? So all red, both builds, all red, no defense, no mementos, just all red. Just crits everywhere, right? Same weapon. Police M4 using Obliterate. So the max crit damage difference is somewhere over 320,000 per crit. 320,000 per crit, guys. Striker has 320,000 greater crit damage than Umbra. But the DPS damage numbers are really close to the same. So on average, Umbra is somewhere around 11.4 million DPS, somewhere between 11.4 and 12. It can go a little bit higher, it can go a little bit lower, depending on RNG on your crits. That's in the testing range. Where Striker is somewhere, it starts off at like around 7 million when you don't have any stacks. When you're at full stacks, you can get as high as 13 million, averaging around 12 million. So that's really close. It sounds like there's a spread. You're like, oh my gosh, 320,000 crit damage. Striker's got to be king of all king builds. It's 320,000 greater than Umbra. It's 2.2 million greater than the meta build, right? So you would think like Striker's going to crush Umbra. It's going to crush, but it doesn't. It doesn't. And so the average time to clear content with Striker is basically ties. They all tie, really. That's kind of the moral of the story, is that they all tie when it comes to average time to clear and time to kill in game. And the testing range is deceiving because you're like, oh, wow, well, 320,000. But what the testing range doesn't give you is perspective. It doesn't give you any perspective on your number. Have you ever seen big, large, meaningless numbers in this game where somebody says, oh my God, I put out, 2 billion in damage in that legendary mission. This build rocks. Oh my God, look at how much better this build setup does than that build setup. It's got, 320,000 more crit damage on crit, right? That doesn't mean anything. Or what does it mean? The question is, it's not that it doesn't mean anything. The question is, well, what does it mean? You're not giving me any perspective. What does that mean in the sense of the metric that's most important, the key performance indicator, which is time to kill? So great that it has more damage. What does that mean to me for time to kill? And would I choose that over 40% armor regen or 80% armor regen? And that's what you need to know. And that's why you got to get out of the testing range, because there's no perspective on the number there. You're just like, oh, it's got to be better. It's got better. It's a better. It's a better. It's got better crit to damage. A crit to damage is a better, right? But you go out there and you're like, well, I can't tell. Everybody's dying faster. But because you have that crit damage number in your head, you're going to have this placebo effect, right? And so you say, well, Striker's got to have the faster time to kill. But it doesn't. Sometimes it does. Sometimes Umbra does, right? with all else being equal. And so it's really crazy. It's really crazy. So what I'm trying to tell you is that 320,000 greater crit damage is not enough to make a build better on face value. Right? So it's not enough damage to separate two builds because of all the variables out in the world. It's crazy. It's crazy. So in the testing range, in a perfect world, in an isolated vacuum, you can be like, oh, the time to kill I think is a little bit faster, and you probably would be able to pick up on it. Now you can't. Now in a side-by-side frame-by-frame you would, but if you put on an all striker build and then you take that off and put on an all Umbra build, you would, and try to measure your time to kill visually, you wouldn't actually be able to tell. But Striker is a little bit faster in the testing range. But when you go out in the real world, it could be Umbra and it could be Striker, even if you're standing in front of a target that is just staring at you. So there's just variables on how often the enemy flinches, how many shots are landed, you're degrading stacks on Striker, all those other fun stuff. But anyways, so with Umbra, what I'm trying to tell you is that because I got insanely great heals, I adjust for that and I play into it with this build. So that's why we got 3 armor cores, is because I was like, with this one, you can get out of cover. And so remember the 10% bonus armor. So we're going to be picking up on that here. Additional 12% damage to robotics proxies, as well as 10% more skill damage from the skill tree inside Technician. I'm running the Memento backpack. I have crit chance here. This is giving us 3 core attributes: weapon damage, an armor core, and a skill tier. So that's our second skill tier. We're gonna get 5% weapon damage per red core, which is 15% weapon damage every time we pick up a trophy. We're also gonna get 10% bonus armor. So I've loaded this up with 3 armor cores. That's gonna be 30% bonus armor every time we grab a trophy. And this is what I mean by being tailored to the golden bullet. But what the blue shield is doing for you, what that bonus armor is doing for you, is allowing you to move out of cover a little more freely. And by doing that, you're able to grab more trophies and give your skills serious boosts, because you can get 5% skill efficiency for every trophy that you're picking up for every skill tier you have. But more importantly, you can have 30% skill efficiency when you're fully stacked. Also 30% weapon damage when you're fully stacked. Now, I decided to go with the contractor's gloves. So this is one of the adjustments I made because I know we're going to be doing a lot of heroic content. And the second wave of every control point is basically pure elites. So this accounts for that, as well as the named bosses, and you're going to encounter 2 of them. So the contractor's gloves is giving us 8% damage to armor. As you can see, the assault rifle gives us the health damage and the damage to targets out of cover. So this is an additional multiplicative damage that we'll find very helpful. And then I got a red core with crit damage on it. And then Umbra, which is giving us 15% crit chance, 30% reload speed, very helpful when playing out of cover, and the talent from the shadows into the light. And I have armor, crit damage, and crit chance on the mask. The chest piece increases the stacks from the shadows from 50 to 100. So what it's saying here is that you're gonna have 100% crit damage when you're at full stacks, as well as 30% additional RPM to your weapon. When you're out of cover for at least 5 seconds, you're gonna gain armor regen stacks. When you go back into cover, you're gonna get 40% armor regen, and the backpack is giving us 3% armor regen, whether we're in or out of cover. So very good heals going on here. The holster's got a skill tier and crit chance. That's pushing us to 3 skill tiers, and then the gun fills in the gaps. And then lastly, we got the knees with an armor core and crit damage. As far as the turret, there's not much to see here because this is without the buffs, but there's the base turret. It's only 3 skill tiers. Of course, that turns into 6 very easy, as you can see from the gameplay. And then there's the drone. Same thing. So the drone and the turrets also allow you to move freely without a shield because they distract the enemies so well. And don't forget to use the busy little bee when you start off the fight, especially. That's going to help you get your future initiative stacks, those early stacks, really quickly. Here's a quick look at the stacks. As you can see, we're at max crit chance. This is 105% base crit hit damage. And then we're going to have another 100% crit hit damage from the gear set. So that's pushing us to 205% crit hit damage with 8% damage to armor, as well as the damage to targets out of cover. So as you can see, this build is not lacking any damage, not to mention the 30% weapon damage you're getting off the backpack and all the skill damage that's going out as well. Very fun build. This is one that I'm going to use a lot when I'm not running the other builds that I've showed you. If you love Division 2 lore, check out my signature Netflix style build miniseries. I have 9 episodes in this playlist. You can binge all of them right now.
Reinforcements incoming. I'm on the flank. I got you.
So you want to be a player? You gotta hit us up to get a pimped out ride.
You've got to pimp my ride.
Damn right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't muted. Thank you, Matt. Woo. Woo, how long was I muted for? I don't know. Anyways, I was to say, so this is the Pimp My Build area. So we got quite a few Pimp My Builds here to go through. So sorry if I'm repeating myself, because I don't know where I had my mute on. Anyways, so this one's from Was Good, who's coming in from the Discord side. And so if you didn't know, we have a Pimp My Build channel inside the Players Club on Discord. So if you're in the Players Club, then make sure you're over on Discord, and that's how you submit your builds. But this, we're gonna get one from Was Good, and we got one from Sick Jim, and then we have one also from Mr. Rob. So we got 3 to get through here. Okay, so just post a screenshot, tell me what your intentions are for the build, and then I'll take it from there. And sometimes we have longer discussions. Otherwise, I just kind of put my thoughts into these builds. But so this is an evolution from Was Good, and so he actually had a few builds. So one of the things that's really unique about this build, so this build is actually quite unique, and so I'm glad we're featuring it. But he is going for 100% disruption resistance. Okay, and so the first thing I asked was, well, why disrupt resistance? Good question. And so I was like, are you going into countdown, or is this a floor 100 for the summit? And this would work for all of those, right? And disruption resistance does work for all of those. So in order to get there, you got to have most of the way you're getting there with hazard protection, and then you're filling the gap with disruption resistance mods. And he's got some really nice mods here, as you can see. There's 100% disruptors or 10% disrupt resistance mod there. So that's really nice. And so, but he said mostly it was for the Black Tusk. And so, because they have disruptor round, they can disrupt your shield. And so, also when the Warhounds get disrupted, they can take down your shield too. And then, of course, in addition to what he's using the build for, it's also good for hunters, right? So if you went into countdown, and they can disrupt your skills as well as floor 100. So by building disrupt resistance, you can counter that. Really great for shield builds when you're running disrupt resistance, because it's the one where you're most vulnerable. If you lose it, you're out in the open and you lose your shield, you're like, I'm naked, right? So disrupt resistance is really good for that. Also because of the hunter situation, it allows you to pull in closer to those hunters and gives you something to block their hatchet, right? Their melee. So anyways, let's take a quick look at his build. So I don't have each individual piece screenshot, so I'm just gonna tell you what he's got here. So this is a headhunter build, okay? So then his primary weapon is the Regulus, which I love. You don't have to use the Regulus though, of course. You could use the D50. And some might even argue it's a better gun for this type of build, because it's not, you don't only have disruption resistance, but the D50 is also gonna heal your shield, and it's got a high enough base weapon damage where you can chain kill with it also. So think about that. It's very strong. The D50 Liberty, the exotic Liberty. So you can go with that, or just a regular D50, and you can go close and personal. You can put preservation. Lots of options if you go with the regular D50, which is a little less damage. And so you do have to be careful how you run it to make sure you get your chain kill effect. So he's running the Punch Drunk Mask, which is going to give us 20% pistol damage. That's the named DNH mask. So it's 20% pistols damage, and then it's also giving you 20% headshot damage, and then he's got hazard protection and disrupt resistance mod. He's running the Memento, which is giving him that skill tier, which is adding to that shield, as well as the armor core, which is adding to that shield. So the Memento, it can be really good with shield builds. Think about that. And then he's getting the 30% weapon damage that cannot be disrupted, right? So really cool. And not to mention the bonus armor regen, which is really important, and skill efficiency. Again, really important for the shield. So it's important to note that when he takes damage to his body, which can happen when you're running a bulwark shield, you can get shot in the back or the side or the hand or whatever, that you can lose vigilance if you decided to go that route. So this is a good way to maintain that. So it's a good synergy he's got going here, because he wants disruption resistance. He doesn't want any of his capabilities to go down, right, to be disabled. So really cool thing he's got going on. So far so good. And then he's got disrupt resistance on the Memento. And then the chest piece, he's decided to go with Providence, and that's probably because he's looking to meet the minimum headshot threshold for the Headhunter talent. So as you can see, he's running the Headhunter talent. So the alternative here would be the named Walker and Harris chest piece called Chain Killer. And that comes with perfect Headhunter. And so, which just, and 5% weapon damage for the talent there on that piece. And the perfect Headhunter just allows you to get to the cap just a little bit faster per kill. So it's not a big deal, in my opinion. For the gloves, pretty consistent here. So he's got a red core, hazard protection, headshot damage. For the holster, looks like he's running the named holster, the Picaro's holster, which is giving him 15% more weapon damage, also skill haste. And then he's got more hazard protection. And then he's running the y'all knee pads. Y'all, what up, y'all? What up, y'all? Anyways, he's got that. That's 10% more hazard protection. He's got another 10% hazard protection on that with more headshot damage. He's running Technician, and he's probably got that set to skill repair. He's looking for the skill tier and also the Artificer Hive to make his shield stronger. So really cool build. And again, he's mostly looking to take on the Black Tusk and their disruption rounds. And also, what else do they have? They have that, the medics throw that like disruptor grenade, right? That disrupts your skills and damages you at the same time. So I think this, I haven't tested this build against that, but I think this build counters that. So really cool. Okay, so absolutely great build. So just to make it clear, when we're talking about Pimp My Build, it's not always to make a build better, right? Because that's subjective. Better is subjective, right? So it's, unless there's something that really is obvious, but I know from my experience in this game, I've been playing this game a long time, guys, and I've played with more builds than anybody out there, hands down. Hands down, any content creator, anybody I know, I guarantee I've made more builds than them because I make 4 or 5 builds a day. You know what I mean? Easy. Tinkering, versions of one build. Even if it's a single build, I got like 20 build variations of that build as I'm progressing through it and try to optimize it for my gameplay style and then for the community and or the global event. So I can tell you, there is no better build out there. You know what I mean? It is the better build for you is a better way to say it, right? So I just want to make that clear. When you submit a build to Pimp My Build, it's not necessarily about making it better unless something is just really off and kind of like uncoordinated or not in synergy, or, there can be a better synergy out there, but it's not better if the best build, I should say, is tailored to your playstyle. Is it effective? Does it do what it says it can do? And is it fun? That makes the best build in the game. Okay, so we got that out of the way. So from here, there are changes that I would make based on my gameplay style and what I know about these builds. So one is he's running 2 pieces of D&H, right? And so I run a lot of handgun builds. That's what I mean. So the second piece of D&H is giving you more stability, which can be really handy, right? There's no doubt, especially on any assault rifle build or shotgun, as you can see, as he's got as his primary and secondary weapons. But the way he has this configured, this is primarily a pistol build because he wants his skills to be disrupted. That's first. That's the objective, not disrupted. His objective, his primary objective is to not disrupt my skills. I'm going to roll all of my stats into that after headshot damage, right? So that's major. That's major. So we can clearly say that this is a pistol build and that he wants his shield to be up the entire time. All right. So if that's the case, for my testing, and you can test this yourself, stability does, which is really weird. I know this is gonna be weird. Stability doesn't help pistols a lot. And the second piece of D&H is stability. I think it's 20% stability, isn't it? Do I have a D&H on me right now? Let me take a look. I think it is 20% stability. I'm just gonna. I don't think I have a D&H on me right now, but I think it is 20% stability. Either way, it's stability. It's the second one, stability. And yeah, I don't have a D&H right now. So it's that's stability. And so he doesn't really need that. So it's wasted. And so, and I found that out myself relatively recently. So if you take on and off your stability, go into the testing range and just shoot at the wall and look at your shot patterns, you realize that like you're not really seeing much of a difference. And a lot of that is because of the range in which you're playing with the pistol, you know. And so, and stability also has to do a lot with the consecutive of shots, right? Because its stability is an attribute, vertical attribute, mostly vertical, I should say, as a consequence of your recoil, right? And so, and each weapon has a recoil pattern, right? And so the pistols have a relatively stable recoil and recoil pattern, and their fire rate on these heavy hitters isn't, the RPMs isn't that high. So you're not going to get this weapon that's sort of bouncing all over that place. And anyways, one of the things that I would like to direct you to is by running sharpshooter. So I used to run sharpshooter with my pistols as a way to get more stability and target acquisition because of the buffs that sharpshooter gives to you. And so, but I found that it doesn't hardly affect a pistol. And so you can test that in the testing range yourself and see what you think. But you don't really need that 20% stability. If anything, I would probably go more weapon handling, because you could always use a little bit more reload, and then you get accuracy and stability anyways out of more weapon handling. But the reload is quite important when you're playing at the distances in which a pistol plays. And so think about John Wick, and when he's playing with his pistols, he's not really playing, but when he's out there killing with his pistols, he does these amazing fast reload hacks, right? And he's, one of the things that makes him an effective killer is how fast he reloads, or the fact that he doesn't reload at all because he just switches weapons or abandons a weapon and picks up a weapon on the floor. And so when you're playing at those when you're in the kill zone basically, and you're playing at those types of distances, reload is quite important. And so anyways, weapon handling can help a little bit more. So I'd probably drop the D&H. And so that's one of the things. And you know, there's a couple of I guess directions you can go there. I'd probably move the Providence to my gloves. Yeah, you can run Providence to your gloves, and we're going to play around with this build, so this is just kind of shooting from the hip right now. But so one of the things I want to open up your minds about how many different ways you can run a build, right? And so there's lots of ways you can run a build. So options for the glove, the alternate for the glove. So the mask is fixed because it's best in slot probably for this build at D&H. It's amazing. But for the gloves, I'd probably run my second piece of Brazos and get another skill tier. I think that'd be more valuable than the 20% stability. And if you wanted to add a weapon handling attribute there, that's why I would do it, you know, instead of the 20% stability. So, and I love stability in this game, stability mods. So I'm not saying I'm not against stability. I just think on pistol builds, it just doesn't really impact your gameplay as much as you would think it would. So, yeah, I'd probably go. Yeah, two-piece Brazos makes a lot of sense with the direction. I would give him another skill tier that'd make that shield even tankier. And then with that, I'd probably, yeah, I guess you could run it with the red core, hazard protection, and headshot damage. Just keep it consistent. Yeah, that's the way I would do it. Easy. Otherwise, you could run a Providence there, or a Walker and Harris, or even go the Contractor gloves, keeping the stats the same. So if he's doing a lot of heroic, which he is, then the damage to armor will be helpful. In legendary content, damage to armor is still helpful, but if you really pay attention to how many elites there are in legendaries, not a lot, but there are a lot of vets. So that's where legendary changes. They do twice as many vets as they do elites to you. That seems to be the ratio, and I'm totally ballparking it. But you'll notice that there's at least 2 purple guys for every 1 yellow guy. And then I think it's 4 red guys for every purple guy. So you can have up to 8. So if you're getting 2 vets, you're getting up to 8 non-elites, the red guys. So interesting how that works out. But that's not science. That's just my mental visualization on these legendaries that I have a lot of experience with, obviously. So okay, let's go into the holster. So he's got the Picaro's holster. And so I think that is a good move there, because a lot of people think that with Headhunter builds, the most important stat is headshot damage. It's actually not. You can easily run crit damage with these builds. I run headshot damage because I like the efficiency of headshot damage. And since we're only going for headshots, it just makes sense to keep the build efficient that way. But you can totally go crit chance, crit damage. You have... that way, if you do land a body shot, you're at least getting the max damage on the body shot that you possibly can. But I like his move here with the holster because it's giving him 15% weapon damage with the core, the blue core, and it's also setting him up for a second piece of brazos if he wants it. So weapon damage, like I said, so weapon damage is actually more important than headshot damage on Headhunter builds. The only reason why headshot damage is a factor is because it gets you to the max cap of 1,250% of Headhunter. So once you get to 150%, you have a choice on what you want to do with your additional damage. More weapon damage, more headshot damage. You want to go crit damage on top of that if you got the slots, whatever. But that's the only reason why headshot damage is a factor. And for me, I just go into all headshot damage for efficiency's sake, so I don't have to add crit chance to my build, but which takes up slots. So weapon damage, so that's a good move there. So he's got the 20% weapon damage from the mask, and then he's got the additional 15% weapon damage from the holster, and he's going to run a blue core anyways, so he gets both. So really cool move there. The knee pads, he probably needs that. If you don't have the y'all knee pads, you can actually go improvised there. So just go improvised. Disrupt resistance, hazard protection. Would that give you the same? I think it would, right? Hazard protection. No, it's maybe the same. I think it's no. That's giving him. No. That's right. Okay, sorry, I was confusing myself. Yeah. So if you do a improvise and then get improvised with a red core, of course, hazard protection and headshot damage, and then you put the disrupt resistance on the knees through a mod, you basically get the same thing. You're still effectively 100% disrupt resistant. You're just 10% less resistant to the rest of the status effects out there. Otherwise, it's the same. And that brings us to the chest piece. I actually think he'd be better off with Walker and Harris here. Because going back to the point in which weapon damage is actually more important than headshot damage. And that's because of the if you read the talent, which unfortunately I'm not able to show you here, but it's a factor that the cap is a factor of your weapon damage. Actually, I have it open here, and so let me see. Do I have it here? Let me hide this real quick. So if you look at the cap, it says damage is capped to 800% of your weapon damage. See the word weapon damage? So you need, and that 800% is more meaningful, or in our case, 1,250% is more meaningful the greater our weapon damage is. So that's why you want to boast into your weapon damage and only use your headshot damage to get to the greater cap. So let me put that build back up. So He may, and I don't know because I don't see his stats. He may be using Providence because he didn't get to his threshold and he wants to meet his threshold. But if he gets rid of the D&H gloves, then that makes it even more possible. So if he doesn't run Brazos for his gloves, or if he must meet his threshold, which is probably more important than the skill tier, then I would actually put Providence over to the gloves and then put Walker on the chest piece. Again, weapon damage is the most important factor here over headshot damage. And so that makes his handgun even stronger. Again, it's going to get the 20% punch drunk weapon damage buff, and then he's going to get the 5% from Walker, and then the holster has that 15% little weapon damage buff as well. So that's probably what I would do for efficiency's sake. The other part is that I would take a look at with this build is the Technician. I'm not sure I would run Technician, you know? And I know he's going after that Artificer Hive. And then also he can spread the disruption resistance to allies if they stay within 5 meters of his hive. But I find that's really hard to transfer that to your allies. Like when you do floor 100, that's not a very large room, but still I find my allies are outside of that range of disrupt resistance. So they get disrupted anyways. So that's really weird. But also I've always found it annoying that when you deploy your hive that it itself can get disrupted. You guys notice that? Even though you can apply a disruption resistance, your skill itself gets disrupted. That being your hive, that's really annoying also. But anyways, that aside, he's using the this is where I think we got to I would challenge was good to rethink his shield. Okay. And so his challenge here, the stated challenge that he wrote in his description was that where he's working on is his balance between survivability and damage. And so, and like we said before, the greatest chunk, but not the only chunk of your survivability is your time to kill. So if his time to kill is where he needs it, which is 1 shot, 1 kill, and that might not happen off of the first kill. I get that. It might take the first kill 2 or 3 bullets, but after that, he's chain killing. Okay. So 1 shot, 1 kill, then he's got great survivability, and then he picks up a trophy and he gets some bonus armor there, right? And I understand he doesn't have armor on kill, and so that's a discussion. But he does have the shield guarding his front in addition to that. But his shield only needs to be strong enough for him to get that 1 shot, 1 kill. And most of the time, there's no more than 2 or 3, maximum 4 enemies standing in front of him. Right, and they're starting to spread out and flank him anyways, so they're not going to be shooting at his shield for very long. They're eventually going to be shooting at his back. So he's got to have a fast time to kill. He's got to take down that first enemy with a headshot and then one tap the other 3 enemies right behind him, blow them up essentially, right? So, which is going to make those other enemies, once he blows up that first guy, it's going to weaken the other 3 enemies anyways. So they're going to be easier to kill as long as they're in radius of that explosion. So I think that the concentration should be on the 1 shot, 1 kill capability, not the shield. I've found with my headhunter builds, as a matter of fact, let me just hide this a quick. So I'm running 1.3 million armor, and I don't even really need to. I've just armored up for the event, for the Golden Bullet event. But the reality is that if you got 1 shot, 1 kill, nobody's alive long enough to take down this, which is eventually going to be over 10 million. Or we're going to get a major buffs of active regeneration from the skill efficiency. So nobody should be alive long enough to bust 10 million shield. Nobody should be alive long enough. So, you know what I mean? So that's why I think the Artificer Hive is a little bit unnecessary, unless he's trying to be a true tank, and that's not what I kind of picked up for him. If he's trying to be a true tank, I guess that's fine. and that would still be the challenge. I'd maybe add some more armor regen or something like that, but I'm just trying to think about that. But he didn't state that's what he was trying to do. He just wanted his shield to be disrupt resistant. And so especially for those critical moments. But this is what I found is like, you know, you want to be dropping your shield as much as possible anyways. So in between engagements. And so your shield has a few moments to recover. But if you're just walking around with the shield, you're going to be also really slow. I mean, again, one of the main objectives is to clear content quickly. You got to survive, but as quickly as possible. And so if you're just walking around with this big shield car door in front of you, everywhere you go, you're not going to get anything done very quickly. You have to drop that shield. So the reality is, in heroic content, even if you are playing against the Black Tusk, you're going to be encountering 3 or 4 enemies at a time, and then you're going to have a gap up to about 10 seconds between you before you find your next target to engage, because they're around the corner, they're coming out of a door, they're not in line of sight, whatever. You got to run over there to get them, run into the next spawn point, whatever it is, right? Next checkpoint. So, anyways, if your time to kill is where it should be, then you don't need that shield to be strong. You don't have to roll any. I mean, a tier 2 car door is plenty. Tier 3 is like, oh Lord, is God, and he's got a tier 4 shield, so it's really, really strong. Plus, he's got disrupt resistance and hazard protection, which is going to be nice. So I don't know if you need technician. You know, it's giving you the extra skill tier. I get that. That which pushes it to a tier 5, I should say, actually. So he's got 2 tiers from the memento, 1 from technician, so there's 3, and then 2 more blue cores, so that pushes it to tier 5. That's a very strong shield. It's not only disrupt resistance, but it's really hard to kill. And then you have the Artificer Hive on top of that. That's really strong. I mean, test the limits of that shield. You know, I'm thinking you don't need technician with the way you have this set up. I mean, to be honest with you, if you tried to go into a legendary stronghold, it won't survive. I mean, disruption resistance aside, you're going to get annoyed to hell with explosives. And there's going to be Chungas focus firing on that shield and stuff like that at the same time. And tanks. Tanks, right? So, like, you know, not going with Bulwark or something like that is pretty hard to be a tank without, like, a Bulwark build. It's possible. You could definitely do it. I'm not saying you can't. But trying to get your damage up really high with one-shot, one-kill capabilities and legendary is a little bit out of reach. Anything's possible. But my point is, you're going to get hit with so many explosives, you're not going to land a headshot anyways. You're going to be staggered all over the place in legendary. So I don't think he's trying to do that. He didn't say he was. But, you know, so my point is, it's like, God, tier 4 shield, tier 5 shield, tier 6 shield, shit, way strong for what you need to do, which is only land a bullet in the head so that they die. You know what I mean? So I would almost look at, again, going back to, if I stuck with technician, which you totally could, and then you can get the skill tier anyways, which is great. Think about the riot foam. Look about how I was using it, right? In the gameplay footage with the shotgun. So the riot foam will hold them still so that you can blow them up, blow up whole groups of enemies. So you can use it for defense and for offense. So, and then you're making use out of your 2 skill tiers and your skill efficiency. So that's I think would be better than the Artificer. I don't really think you need the Artificer. I don't think you need it. But I understand there's secondary benefits, like trying to give your teammates disrupt resistance also. The other thing you could do is, you are missing some survivability, so you could run Gunner and get a little 10% armor on kill. It's not a lot, but if your time to kill is high, which it should be in heroic content, 1 shot, 1 kill, then you can chain kill pretty easy and get 10, 20, 30, 40% armor on kill pretty easily. And then you get your bonus armor on kill on top of that, plus your armor regen underneath that. So Gunner's a good way to go. And then for skill there, you could run the Banshee push in case you get flocked by enemies. Otherwise, you could also go Sharpshooter, and that's a shortcut into getting your Headhunter proc, like I was using it. So park it in cover, take out an easy enemy to get your Headhunter fully stacked using your TAC 50, and then go out there with your pistol and rinse and repeat as needed. And then you can also go survivalist and have the little Mender Seeker following you around. But you also get your 10% armor on kill. That would also give you the bolt, the crossbow, so you could take out chungas. Lots of options there. But my point is, I think, look, if you're trying to one-shot, one-kill, you don't need your shield to be that strong. That's, I think, my big point here. I think that's like my number one thing on this build. Is it like, look, focus on landing that shot, and the enemy should not be alive, even if you got 4 enemies around you, and they're all shooting at your shield. They shouldn't be alive long enough to break your shield. They shouldn't be, especially with the Regulus, because you're blowing them up. So like, they shouldn't be alive long enough. And I granted, you might not be the best headshot guy in the world. So I'm not trying to say that, but I'm just trying to say that, like, even if it takes you 2 or 3 headshots on that guy to get the first one down, and then, you know, and then you duff that shot and you got to put another one in the next side. They should still, and you don't get like these perfect headshot kill executions. They should still be dying fast enough on a 10 million shield, which is yours is greater. I don't know what it is, but mine's 10 million. Yours is greater because you're tier 5. So that's probably like 13 million shield. That's like a 13 million shield right there. Way too strong. And you got the Artificer Hive. So that allows you to redistribute that into other areas of survivability. That's what I think you should do with this build. Tons of fun. We'll play around with this one, guys. So tons of fun. Let's get into the next. All right, this one is from Sick Jim. Sick Jim in the house. So you guys all know who Sick Jim is. He's the one that takes the trophy for being first in the chat almost every time. This guy is king of being first. Being first. So I'm probably going to do kind of a shit job of explaining this one because it is a concept that I am not super familiar with running personally. But I have, if you guys were with me last week when we were farming, I was farming for these pieces based on Sick Jim's idea. So Sick Jim, if you're chiming in, any tips or comments would be helpful, but not required. Anyways, so look at this build. It's crazy. Okay, so initially when we talked about this build, I recall that Sick Jim was saying that this is primarily a solo build. But when I look at it now, I don't think that anymore. And so I might have misinterpreted his answer, or he misinterpreted my question. But what I'm seeing here is a team buff build, something in lines with a wingman build. So the idea of a wingman build is that, hey, look, the devs gave us all these gear sets and build pieces that are adding to survivability. Think of the Doctor's Home build, okay? Doctor's Home gun, that's coming. That's gonna give the team 15% armor on kill when you pick up the trophies. And then think of Umber Initiative, where you're getting up to 80% armor regen and whatever else you got going on, 10% armor on kill. Think of Hunter's Fury, 20% armor on kill. Think of people running Foundry, whatever. They got survivability already on their build besides time to kill. So with that in mind, it can be said that a 4-piece Future Initiative healer build in outside of the raid is sort of overpowered, not optimal, unused, or abused. You know what I mean? And so we've found, like, from our testing and from our experience, that when somebody's got heals backing them up, or when somebody's got well, they play differently than if they had bonus armor. Bonus armor, if you notice, or people with lots of armor, and that's what bonus armor gives you, people tend to play more aggressive. It's proactive, right? And that's because it's proactive. It's giving you extra life so that you can get out there and take damage. Where heals is sort of the same thing, but it's more reactive. It's like saying, we're going to give you extra life so that you can recover from the damage that you just took, but you can die. You know what I mean? So it's the same but different, and we found that it affects people in their gameplay. So Craig Trukey, welcome to being a Tux supporter. Welcome to Players Club, brother. Thank you for supporting me, man. You rock. Shout out to Craig. So anyways, And so that's what a wingman build is. It kind of plays off of the concept. Oh, sick, Jim, you rock, you're here. So it plays off of the concept that a wingman build is that healer builds are overpowered and sort of go to waste in like even a legendary content where there's only 4 guys, right? And everybody's got their own little level of survivability. So how can you make that build more efficient for a team? How can you add different types of survivability? Not just heals. So Sick Jim's chimed in. He says group buffs. Okay, so I was wrong and he's right. Okay, got it. So group buffs, bonus armor. I saw the bonus armor and it says gear set, damage buff. Got that. Then shotgun and then damage buff. And if I remember, Sick Jim, correct me if I'm wrong because I don't have a future piece in front of me and I don't think I have one on my body. Do I? I think the buff from future is 15% by default, and then you can increase it to 25 if you're running the chest piece. I don't run future too much, so. It's been a while since I ran it. So I think that's correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it is a wingman build confirmed. And so really cool. And so I don't know how this plays. So we're going to have to experiment with this one. And I've been collecting pieces for this too. And I've been collecting pieces for the damage side so that you can also put out some damage. And I still need to collect some more pieces for the blue cores here. So Sick Jim, can you confirm, is that armor regen or explosive resistance on the build? And so if you're playing a lot of legendary content, which I imagine this build would be nice for. What up, Div? Reaper Hawk? I would say that explosive resistance can be really handy on this build, especially if you're going to be some sort of tank, which he is. Not a full tank, but because he's not running a bulwark, but a pretty strong Crusader shield, as you can see. Okay, so let's just get all in. Let's just round this thing out here real quick. And so Microsisu real quick has a comment that says Umbra might be the best set in the game, either hybrid or full red. Bold statement, I know. It is just so good. Microsisu, you are not incorrect. You're not incorrect. And I'm going to be challenging the community a little bit to think the same. Based on my testing and my findings, I would agree with you. Actually, I've been doing a lot of head-to-head competitions between Striker and Umbra and Heartbreaker and the meta. And I am finding consistency between the concept of the best build equation is fast time to kills and fast time to heals, with all else being the same. Effectiveness, fun, and all that stuff. Productive. So and that's what Striker is lacking, is it's got fast time to kill, but it's not enough to outshine the meta Heartbreaker or Umbra. And it feels that way, and you go into testing range and you see the big meaningless damage number, but you put it in context, and when I mean context is I mean in the game, in gameplay, it doesn't pan out. The time to kill is the same. It's the same. And sometimes you'll see Heartbreaker beat Striker in time to kill. You'll see Umbra and whatever. And that's because there's all sorts of real world variables or in-game variables that don't exist inside the testing range. So when you're in the testing range, Striker can look better and even has a higher crit hit damage. But what does that mean in terms of time to kill? Absolutely nothing. They all have the same time to kill in gameplay, and sometimes the other builds have a faster time to kill, and sometimes Striker has time to kill. But what we do know is that Umbra has way faster time to heal, and when you put time to kill and time to heal together at fast rates, that build will win hands down almost every time. So, but they're all the same. The reality is, but when it comes to using a metric like average time to clear content, they all clear content fast. Fast is just fast. But I noticed that you can go just a little bit faster when you have that fast time to heal. Goes a long ways. But yeah, that's right, Miker. Like you can go 100% all red build and still have 80% armor regen. 80% on an all red build. That's insane. Thank you, Reaper. 15% weapon damage when at full armor. Good catch at that. So, okay, let's get back into this real quick. But yeah, big topic on the Umbra Striker head to head. Okay, so let's look at the big buffs here. Okay, so the Umbra. I'm sorry, not the Umbra. I got that in my head now. The future gear set here is giving you repair skills. I believe skill haste. I can't remember by heart. I don't have it by heart. Actually, I think I might have this in my stash. Let me pull it up in my stash. Sorry, because I'm gonna keep doing that, and then I'm gonna have to keep asking you guys like, what does this give us? Because I've been collecting these pieces. Yeah, I got it. Okay, let me just hide this real quick. Okay, so we got 30% repair skills, 50% skill haste, 30% skill duration. Skill duration is really helpful for the Mender Seeker and the chems. Okay, so skill duration actually works for your heals. And so it for the hive as well, I guess you can leave the hive out longer. But for anything that puts out that green cloud, it allows that cloud to stay up longer. So your enemies can walk in and out of it. Also, it allows you to shoot the chem in front of where your ally is going in anticipation that they're going to be there. And then by the time that they get there, the cloud is still there. So increase you and your allies' total and weapon and skill damage by 15% when at full armor. So that's pretty passive. So it doesn't say you have to heal them at all. It says when they're at full armor. And many of your guys are going to get there by themselves, right? Many of the guys are going to have armor on kill. They're going to have a repair skill, whatever. And so what he's doing with this build is he is healing them with the Mender Seeker, right? He's giving them, there's 30% repairs to this, but he's also keeping them at full armor by giving them tons of bonus armor. That's 2 million. And I believe, what is it? Like 55% of your armor gets transferred over to your allies, and you can keep popping that shield. Like, don't remember the cooldowns, but it's not very long, so you can give it to them a lot. They should almost always have bonus armor with Vanguard, so that's Vanguard in the chest. So they got 15% total weapon damage, 50% total skill damage just for being at full armor. He's using Vanguard to give him, I think it's 55% of his armor transferred over to them as bonus armor, so that's shielding their armor so that they stay at full armor. And then he's using his Scorpio shotgun, which is giving 20% weapon damage buff, right? When he gets that poison up there. And then he's got perfect opportunistic, which is that 15%? I think it's 15%, right? I don't have that in my backpack. Sorry, I just got a lot of numbers in my head right now, but I think it's 15%. Let's see, perfect. I don't have the perfect one in my bag right now, but yeah, I think that's 15%. Amplified damage. So that's any marked target, basically. And then I believe the blue. Let's see here. I'm reading his statement here. Armor regen, yeah. So he's got all his secondary attributes are armor regen, and then from there, I imagine the other blue things are protection from elites, the mods. And notice he's running Gila on the chest and Uzina Getica on the backpack. And so that's more armor. That's what gets him to that 2 million threshold. And then he's running Survivalist. That's important. The Survivalist gives him the Mender Seeker, but it's also giving the enemies 10% more damage to status affected targets. And that status effect is coming from the Scorpio shotgun. So lots of buffs there. And then a very strong shield, which allows him to do a little bit of face tanking. So cool. So I think we got the gist of the build, right? So let's talk about ways to pimp it. So I think this is what's really interesting. Can I show you something? Let me show you. Let's make sure we cover this real quick. Let's go to let me see if I got the fixer here. I'll show you in a second. Give me a second here. Let's go to fixer. Okay, cool. Let me hide this picture real quick. Okay, skill tier. We're talking about repair skills here. Okay, so this is important. So this is a big element of this build, right? Repair skills. That's future gear set. So look at we're looking at a fixer drone, so a repair drone, right? Okay, don't worry about the number there real quick. We're looking about what does a tier bring you? A skill tier. You notice that his build doesn't have any skill tiers. Okay, so what a skill tier gives you 20% armor on kill. I'm sorry, 20% armor repair. Scratch that. 20% armor repair. 20% armor repair from a skill tier, right? And then it's also giving you health. But with your repair skills, they usually don't have health issues. You know what I mean? The drone does get shot down sometimes, but it's pretty rare. You see them shooting at it sometimes, but it's pretty rare that they actually shoot down your repair drone. It does happen. It does happen. And the Mender Seeker almost never gets shot down, right? So it's always moving. That little BB-8 guy, the Mender Seeker. So those things don't get shot down very much. But 20% armor repair, that's basically what a skill tier, that's the real benefit a skill tier gives you, 20% armor repair. You know what's really cool about that? Is that you can get 20% armor repair without getting the skill tier. How do you do that? Look at your repair skills, right? So look at that. 20% repair skills. That's the same thing. Armor repair skills, 20%. So that's an equivalent. So each one of these mods or attributes, okay? So an attribute is the same thing, is equivalent to a skill tier. So, and this is what makes these builds really efficient. So if we just look at this and let me find a piece that I can recalibrate here. So skill damage. So look at, as an attribute, it's also 20% repair skills, right? So you got 3 ways to bring in 20% repair skills: a skill tier, an attribute, and a mod. Well, it's technically 4 ways because you also got your weapon. The weapon is a factor too, okay? But he's using the Scorpio, so we're gonna omit that for now. So what I'm trying to say is that basically, if we take a look at his build, like, we can bring in more heals to help us stay or keep ourselves and our allies at full armor. Because that's a variable. We don't know what kind of regen or survivability our allies are bringing in. We don't know. That's a variable. They could be all different levels. Somebody could come in with an all red meta build, glass cannon, no heals whatsoever, right? And if you're like me, you learn, and many of you guys are, I know this, is that you learn to play with no armor. Do you know how many times I literally play with only health using glass cannon? That's right, and that's because I know that if I use an armor kit, they're just gonna take it away again. Glass cannon or not. If I'm running an all red build, I am perfectly okay with no armor if I'm playing from cover. I get out, I do damage on an enemy that's not shooting back at me. I take a couple of hits, I get back in cover, I regen just a little bit, I get back out of cover, and I have no armor the whole time. Now here's the deal with Sick Jim's build, okay? Is if he's playing people like that, experienced players are like that. Experienced players do not need full armor, okay? And so this is something that content creators don't tell you. Okay, experienced players do not need full armor. Experienced players are really effective whether they have armor or not. Right now, that's a little bit of a general statement. I get that, but that's just the reality of it. And so, just watch my gameplay. And so, the effective armor to be an effective killer is 20% armor. Whatever your armor value is irrelevant. Watch your own gameplay. When you drop below 20 to 30% armor, when you drop below that, you'll find yourself hiding, cowering, waiting for your regen, or using an armor kit. When you're above 20% armor, you are fighting. When you drop below 20% armor, you cower. So that means when you're at 100% armor, you're fighting. When you're at 80% armor, you're fighting. 70%, you're fighting. 60%, you're fighting. 50%, you're still fighting. 40%, you're still fighting. 30%, you're still fighting. And as soon as you drop below that 20%, you're hiding, right? So the only recovery you need to be an effective fighter is enough to keep you or to maintain you or to quickly get you back to 20% armor. And so there's a talent in this game to further go through this. There's a talent that nobody uses in this game that is built all around that. Does anybody know what that is? Anybody know what that is? It's called Entrenched. And let me see if I can find it. Entrenched. Actually, it's on the chest. Where am I looking at? Here. Sorry. Chest talent. Yeah, there's a talent called Entrenched, and that's like, wow, the devs know that. The devs, I was pretty surprised once I figured that out. I figured that out eventually just for my own gameplay. But like, the devs found that, look, if you are below 30% armor, God, that used to be 20%, I thought. No. Okay, no, that's right. If you're below 30% armor, headshots from cover, headshots, not kills, headshots, repair 20% of your armor for 3 seconds. So that gives you a buff of 10% armor, right? Remember I said when you drop below 20%, you're hiding? Okay, so the devs know that. So they're giving you 10% armor as a some sort of like buff or a window of opportunity to land a headshot and get 20% of your armor and push you to 50% armor, right? Isn't that interesting? And that's exactly how we play. If you watch your own gameplay, legendary, heroic, it's always the same. If you're below 20% armor, that's when you get conservative. When you're over 20% armor or 30%, if you will, with Entrench, then you're aggressive, right? And so you're more aggressive. And so that's how it works. Whether you're playing from cover or out of cover, it's the same. It's 20% armor. As soon as I'm to 20% armor, I'm like, oh shit, better get in cover. And for me, with more experience, I know like with my headshot builds, like all I got to do is land a headshot. So I don't necessarily go back into cover with the headshot build, but that's only experience that gives you that edge there. So you all get there as well. But really interesting. So my point is that if Sick Jim is playing with people like me, then his build is going to absolutely be wasted, because the only reason why he's running this build, or maybe not the only reason, but one of the only reasons is for that total weapon damage and skill damage buff. So there lies the differentiator from ongoing directive. So ongoing directive is going to give you amplified damage to your primary weapon, but it's not going to help your skills. So this is going to help everything. And it's total weapon damage, which is a nice thing. We like to see the word total. So, but they have to be at full armor because of ground control. So if they're not at full armor, okay, then, and the idea is to keep a 4-man squad at full armor, and the bonus armor is doing that. So the bonus armor is helping a ton, but the reality is there is a gap where people are taking damage. We don't know what the recovery rate is. Hopefully it's good enough, but we want them to be up as much as possible. So he's got 30% repair skills, and then he's got ground control that would be wasted if he's playing with somebody like me that doesn't mind not being at full armor. You know what I mean? And so, that's really interesting. And I don't know how bonus armor plays into this, but it really shouldn't have any effect on ground control directly. So bonus armor shouldn't count as full armor. It should be only white armor, so we're clear. And correct me if I'm wrong, if there's any sort of glitch there, but it shouldn't be that way. But anyways, so that's the variable. And it is a variable, right? We just don't know. And so I think, like, for my opinion, to account for that variable, the direction I would take this build would be not the cores. I love the cores. Okay, I love the cores. But what I would do is probably change my secondary attributes, all of them, every single one of them, to repair skills. All of them. So yeah, and he needs the shield. Okay, so he needs the shield because that's how he's proccing the bonus armor. And so I'm not sure it would change anything with that shield. I think I'd probably run that same shield with the Scorpio. You can run the Bulwark in case you get in a pinch and have to pick somebody up. But he's probably got a strong enough shield to pick somebody up unless they're just in a really bad spot. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, that's a good question. So Div G, it's been a while since I've run ground control future build. Sick Jim, do you know? Div is saying I think ground control works when you are at full armor, not your teammates. Is that true? Is that the case? Can anybody confirm that? I don't remember. I think that actually might be right. So, but either way, I don't think like the direction, even if that were the case, either way, I don't think I would change the direction where I'm going here. I'd still think, the mods aside, for secondary attributes, I think I would probably want to see repair skills. Because if this build is really all about, well, which it is, this build is all about buffing your teammates. And a lot of it is allocated to, well, there's so much allocated into the armor and to the preventative side, which is the bonus armor. But the reality is that they are going to be taking some damage to some degree, and so you might as well instead of armor regen is just for you, and I think that's what he's running, if I remember right. Yeah, he did say armor regen. So you might as well put on repair skills and give it just to you and to them, so at least it's two-way, so you get more out of that recovery than just to yourself, you know. And I know that the Mender Seeker kind of wanders and makes its way around, but you might use chems, or I'm not a big fan of the hive anymore. I'm actually kind of sick of the hive, and the reason why is because so many people use skills that you'll find that the repair hive will be healing people's skills, and that's really annoying to be healing people's skills. So I'm not a big fan of that. But the chems, the repair drone, which is technically the weakest, but the chems is the second best. The repair chem. And so I would probably run, instead of armor regen, I would just take away all the armor regen and put 20, 40, 60, 80, 120, 140. Well, no, we got 6. So the 120%, 120% more repair skills that way. And then that's synergizing a little bit more with the build, because as you can see here, you got 30% repair skills, and you got skill haste, and you got duration. So maybe that's one direction to go. Now he's running the Gila because it gives him perfect Vanguard. He's running the Uzina Getica because it's giving him perfect opportunistic. So that's probably worth it. You got so much armor though, you might be able to get rid of Gila, actually. You know what I mean? So in the grand scheme of things, is that 5% additional armor from Gila and the 5% additional bonus armor to allies, is that together in the grand scheme of things gonna be a game changer for your allies? No. And I get that it's like you want the most impressive armors you can. I get that. So, but it sort of becomes a vanity thing. You'd be like, look, I'm giving you X amount of bonus armor. Look at my 2 million in armor. But if your armor was at 1.9 million, do you think your team is gonna have less survivability? No, it's not going to make a difference. It's not. It's nice, but it all just expires or gets taken away by the enemy anyways. It's not a lot. It's that little 5%, 10% difference, right? And so what I would think about doing is probably getting out of perfect Vanguard. And I've been doing this a lot lately. Unless you're like, in maybe like a raid situation. So in a raid, I get it. Like in a raid, if you're going to be a tank, you know, going to run the perfect Vanguard situation, you got 8 people. But in a 4-man group, legendary group or less, I would probably actually look maybe like an Alp Summit. Yeah, like an Alp Summit, and get an additional 20% repairs. Try to keep everything the same. So put a Vanguard on it, repair skills on it, maybe some explosive resistance if you like. A repair skills mod, and then put a blue core on that. So I'd be looking for an Alps with Vanguard already on it and repair skills already on it, and then I put a blue core on it. What else could you do there? You could go Bellstone, give yourself 1% armor regen. That'd probably be more than the Gila. Bellstone. You don't get armor on kill, so 2-piece Uzina Getica wouldn't make sense, but a Bellstone would be nice. if you did decide to run the future chest, which would give you an additional 10% total damage, that would take away from the Vanguard situation, but you could run their Murakami knee pads. I would do that, but it's probably not worth it. I think Vanguard's probably a good way to make use of your armor. So, so we got Alps, Bellstone chest, and then from there, I guess if you're gonna do some damage, want to go on the damage side, then you could do the Badger Tough. However, you are so weak with this build, I'm not sure 10% damage is really going to change anything. Or as Azriel's pointing out, you could also run an RNK chest piece and get incoming repairs, 20% incoming repairs. But because this is a team buff build, I'd probably stay away from that. And I'd want to try to get as much two-way benefits, benefits to you, benefits to your teammates on this build as possible. That being said, I think Alps would give the greatest return to your team. You already got enough bonus armor here. Alps. As a matter of fact, if you don't go Alps, then I would consider changing one of your blue cores into one skill tier. Just put on one skill tier. And that would give you 20% repairs. But like I said, I like the idea of putting your repair skills on their secondary attributes and then keeping all your blue cores. I think you got a banger here. I think you got a banger. And then from there, I would look at that repair skill and I would look at, like, is the Mender Seeker the best? It's nice because it's hands-free. And so it's a hard trade. It's a hard trade. It's nice because it's hands-free, right? And it just kind of wanders to all the allies, as I think it's as needed. And then you can focus on using your Scorpio, which is important because you're going to try to inflict that status effects, as well as the poison that gives on 20% more weapon damage when that target is marked. So, and of course, opportunistic, which needs that proc. So this guy's busy, right? Sick Jim's going to be busy. He's a busy guy. He's got to pop that shield. He's got to be shooting people. He's got to be marking guys. He's got to be applying status effects. And then by the time that all cycle happens, he's got to pop his shield down and up again. So he's a busy guy. So the Mender, I can see why the Mender Seeker is helpful. Otherwise, I would probably look at the Chem Launcher. That way you can hit your guys targeted. But then again, that's one more thing to juggle. So I'll leave that for you guys to decide. But really cool build. I'm excited to play with this one, and I am working on it. So we will be live streaming both of the builds that we saw today later on this week as we look to put our own spin and pimp these builds. Let's look at the last one. This one comes from Crux 2PA. Or Mr. Rob. You might know him as both, depending on where you are. But yeah, this is a really cool build. We've seen a similar build to this. We pimped one very similar that came from Smurf Piss Blue a couple of weeks back, which turned into the Terminator build. And so it was a different configuration, though. That one was based on Brazos. This one is not. So this one, as you can see, he's got max skill tiers. He's got 3-piece Empress. He's put crit chance and crit damage wherever he can. So he's basically got max crit chance, and he's got just over 100% crit hit damage. It's almost 110%, if I recall. Okay, so what he's looking to do here is balance his weapon damage and the skill damage. We all are familiar with this task, especially on this channel. He's running the Capacitor, which is giving him 60% skill damage. He's got the 10% crit chance mod on there, the 30% crit damage mod on that Capacitor, which is also being powered up by the skill tiers and the red cores. He's got the Technician specialization for 10% more skill damage plus the skill tier and additional damage to robotics. Helpful for legendary. He's got the Memento with crits, and then that's of course giving him the 3 cores. He's got 30% skill efficiency coming off of that, so very big deal. 3% armor regen, 30% weapon damage, not to mention all the short-term buffs. And then the 3% Empress, if you're not familiar, gives you 10% skill health, 10% skill damage, and then 10% skill efficiency. And so I always find these builds a little bit of a challenge because you're getting so much skill efficiency off of the backpack, especially when you're at full stacks. And if you're able to get out of cover and pick up additional trophies and you're getting some serious skill efficiency buffs, I wonder if that 10% skill efficiency coming off of Empress is even worth it. And if not, if the answer is no, then I wonder if you need Empress at all at that stage. And you might be better off with, I don't know, One Piece, just going directly after One Piece Wyvern, and then whatever. I don't know. There's lots of different paths. That's the way I look at it. But if you want to just give yourself that little extra edge on your skills, and there's nothing wrong with 3-piece Empress. But I look at it from skill efficiency, and I believe skill efficiency is the best statistic for a skill build. And the Memento is giving you 30% of that. All right. And the Memento is absolutely amazing in group legendary gameplay. How do I know? Because I use it all the time, and I play with really good guys, really good teammates, aces, as a matter of fact. And I come out on top, whatever that means. Maybe I'm number 1, maybe I'm number 2, whatever. I'm in range. Maybe we all tie. It doesn't matter. But I'm in range. I'm doing the damage that I need to. I'm effective, and I'm a top tier damage dealer. I'm not held back by the trophies. You know what I mean? The trophies. And so it's crazy. Over a half hour to an hour long of legendary gameplay, those trophies add up to be a lot of damage. But it's the additional benefits you're getting from the armor regen and the skill efficiency and the weapon damage. So what are your options? Tech support, combined arms, basically. And so do any of those give you weapon damage? Do any of those give you armor regen? No. And do any of those even meet the standard of 30% skill efficiency that the Memento is giving you? No. So if you are struggling to get kills, then take a look at your squad or your gameplay style or your gameplay skill level. Some of those things might need to be adjusted. Right, so trust me, it's rarely the build, anything on the build. There are a few builds that can be outshined in gameplay, and they're usually very overly balanced armor on kill builds. And outside of that, I can't really think of any. You know what I mean? Because you can put Hunter's Fury in the same category as Memento, right? Well, the Memento sucks because you're competing for kills, and well, what about Hunter's Fury? You're competing for kills too, and that's can be argued as one of the best legendary gear sets in the game. If you don't get your kill with Hunter's Fury, you're missing 20% armor on kill and up to 25% amplified damage, both of which you need in order to get your next kill, both of which you need in order to not die. You're vulnerable, you're out of cover. With the Memento, it's not as risky, but just as, if not more rewarding, right? Because you don't have to play as aggressive. So anyways, blah, blah, blah. So really good stuff there. He's got the Uzina chest. That's just so you know, that's armor regen. He's got armor, and then of course crits. He's running Obliterate, and then he's running the gloves, which is interesting. So those are the contractor's gloves. That's for the additional 8% damage to armor. He's got armor regen and a skill tier there. Now, why is that interesting? Because he's running the capacitor. What do we know about the capacitor? So the capacitor is unique because it's one of the highest. Let me put it on here. Okay, so the capacitor has the highest damage to armor of any assault rifle. It's got 12% damage to armor, and it's got 9.5% health damage, which is just a little less than half its normal health damage. Let's take a look at another assault rifle. Here we go. So a normal assault rifle has 21% health damage. Let me find one with damage to armor, but the normal damage to armor on these things I think is 9. Find one damage to armor. There it is. Nope. Of course I don't have an assault rifle with damage to armor right now. Is it 9%? The max? I think it is. Let's just take a look. Blah, blah, blah. Jogging over. Recalibration, assault rifle. Let's look at that. Armor. Yeah, 6%. Okay, good. I'm glad we checked. So 6% is your max damage to armor on an assault rifle. Okay. And the capacitor is bringing in 12%. Double. And it's the highest. It's not just the highest. It's double the damage to armor in comparison to any other assault rifle. It's equivalent to a shotgun. Shotguns give you 12% also. So what it doesn't have, when it has half the health damage. Why did they do that? You guys ever curious? Like, why did they give us half the health damage? Why is it 21% health damage there? Right? And so if you go to, let's do a shotgun here. And then can I adjust the shotgun? No. Let's go to this one. Can I adjust this one? No. Shotgun, how about you? There we go. How much health damage? There you go. That's right. So on the secondary attribute slot, right, you can only put 9.5% health damage there. There is no 21% health damage slot there. Right, so they kept it, so it's for consistency's sake. That's one part of it. But also, I think, why didn't they just make a special? They could have made a special circumstance here and justified it. But the reason why is because I think they were thinking correctly. With the capacitor build, there's a really good chance that you're going to be running technician. All right, so what is health damage good for? Chungas. What else? Tech. Right. What is tech? Warhounds. Robotics really. So warhounds. What do you call it? Turrets, tanks, and chungas. But warhounds and tanks, think about those, right? Okay. So when you run technician, you're getting 12% additional damage to those. That's like having 12% more health damage, except it's not, because this doesn't apply to chungas, but it's similar. So 12% damage to those. So if you had 21% plus the 12%, you'd be really high, plus the damage to armor. I think it'd be overpowered. Excuse me. And it's already overpowered. So I think they thought about that a little bit, and they'd be like, ooh, I think it'd be that much armor and that much health damage would make this a scary weapon, and it is pretty scary. The only downside of the capacitor is the size of its mag, which is why I love the 3-piece Brazos. It puts it on par with the other mag sizes of any of the other assault rifles. So most assault rifles have 50. And so I think pretty much all of us hate a 40-round mag on an assault rifle. There's a few of them that have that, like the FAL. And where I think that we would all agree that the FAL could use another 10 rounds also, right? And so, and I've used it myself, and I can say that. But the capacitor's only downside is its small mag. So if you run 3-piece Brazos, that fixes that, by the way. So otherwise, it's an amazing gun, pretty decent reload time, and of course, capacitance. So taking a look at his build. So he's running the capacitor. Great. And so what I found interesting, and so he's running obviously 2 ballistic skills. Skill damage needs to be everywhere for those, and they're pretty self-explanatory. Turret, drone. So that being aside, I think that's where I would probably optimize on this build first. I would probably remove the damage to armor for all of the reasons what I just said. I like the idea, but if this was to make this more suitable for legendary specifically, there's not that many elites and legendary. So and again, chungas are health damage. They have armor plates, but they take health damage. So you're better off with actually the Hollow Man mask for legendary than you would be of the contractor's gloves. Because remember, just look at your District Union Arena. Walk in. What do you see? You see 3 engineers. One of them is an elite. Everybody else is non-elites. You have 1 grenadier that's an elite. Nobody else is an elite. So the entire first wave, there's only 2 elites of like 12 enemies, right? So that 8% additional damage to armor would all be wasted. Plus, okay, for all the reasons I just said, we already have the assault rifle with the highest damage to armor out there, double of what any other assault rifle has. You don't really need any additional damage to armor. Again, I like the idea because even though there are only 2 elites, they're usually also the most pain in the ass of those to kill. So it's sort of nice to have, but when it comes to like, you know, I guess if we are thinking about efficiency, then we want to say like, well, what are we encountering most often? And it's going to be non-elites tech. I mean, there's a good balance of non-elites and tech. But the veterans also take damage to armor. So the purple guys do have armor. So let's not forget that. That can be easily forgotten because we always associate armor with elites. But vets do have armor also. So these would be good for the purple guys. But for every 1 yellow, there's 2 purple, basically, on average. It's not a hard stat, but just think about it that way. So there's still not a lot of those guys either, right? Think of the helicopter that drops down right afterwards. You got 2 purple drone operators that come out from that, and everybody else is, I'm pretty sure, reds. Yeah, I think they're all reds that come off of that helicopter next. So really interesting the way that all pans out. Lots of reds and a couple of purple all the way. And in the end, you got the chungas. So anyways, I would remove the contractor's gloves. And so I think my move would be, I probably wouldn't put the Hollow Man mask. I don't think it's really necessary. But if you are going to be playing lots of legendary, that's one way to go. It's not bad, but you don't really need the hazard protection. That's why it's not my biggest fan. It's not a horrible thing because the chunkas do have stingers, but either way. And so I would probably move one of the Empress pieces, either the holster or the knee pads up to the gloves. So that's what I would do. Just move one of the Empress pieces there. And then Uzina Getica, let's talk about that. So I see why he wants Uzina Getica. So he's rolling into a skilled, an armor core. And I think I'm making an assumption here. I don't know for sure, but I think he's rolling into the armor core because he wants to get out of cover a little bit. Right. And so I think that's why he's got the extra armor. And so, which is, and I like doing that when I'm running the memento. So, cause you're going to get the bonus armor, right? So you get the kill and then you go grab that trophy, you get the more skill efficiency. And then you're also getting 20% bonus armor because of that. So huge. So I like the idea of the skill tiers. Nothing wrong with that. If you're going to be playing purely from cover and not moving around very much, then I really don't think you need the extra skill tier. I don't, not even for the armor regen's sake. Because you're behind cover. And what else is an Invisi shield is your skill. So not many people realize that or even talk about it or make that part of the equation. But it's a fact. Your skills are a shield. They make you invisible. They're a cloaking device. They're more like a smokescreen shield, right? So the enemies don't see you. They see your skills. And that's why it's important to get maximum uptime on your skills. It's because that allows you to shoot more freely with your capacitor when your skills are activated. And so you don't want your drone to wander too much because of that, right? Because the closer it is to you, the more they're focusing on it and not you. But you separate it from yourself, then you might have an enemy focusing on your skill and one focusing on you, different enemies. So anyways, so that's a shield. So and that's why you really don't need a lot of armor on skill builds or armor regen. You don't need a lot of armor regen on skill builds unless, here's a disclosure, unless you're getting out of cover. And I don't mean like running around like a madman. I mean playing kill to kill, trophy to trophy, cover to cover. Okay, that's out of cover. Moving forward, pushing on the enemy, legendary or heroic, it doesn't matter. So having that extra core gives you the bonus armor, gives you the freedom to move, and your skills give you the freedom to move too because they have the power of distraction, like the girl in the red dress. So it's amazing when you add that one armor core to your build. And so I get that. What I don't think he needs, or what I would adjust, is Uzina Getica. So Uzina Getica is bringing in 5% more armor, which is a little bit helpful, and I see that because he's running armor regen as secondary attributes on the gloves and the chest, and then he's got the 3% armor regen off the backpack. So I see why you want to go into armor, extra little 5% more armor, because it just helps a little bit there. But I think you could probably make more use out of that brand talent. For example, you could run one piece of Bellstone and get even more benefit than that little bit of armor. I mean, you'd have to test it officially, but I would imagine that 1% armor regen would have a net benefit greater in armor regen than 5% more base armor. So is that base armor or is it total armor? Should check that. It's not going to matter anyways, but I don't think I'm losing a chest piece on me right now. Look at my stash. I think it's base armor, though, isn't it? The total armor. I haven't been using the Uzina Getica very often. There it is. It's total armor, so 5% total armor. So a little bit, which is more than base armor. So that's a greater benefit, but I still don't think it would do as much as Bellstone. So I'd have to put the build together to see exactly what the armor regen difference would be, but pretty sure that works out in Bellstone's favor. The other thing you could do is get rid of the when you instead of running those contractor's gloves, you could run a second piece of Uzina Getica and get 10% armor on kill, which is very valuable on the skill build that's doing a good job of killing, right? So 3% armor regen plus 10% armor on kill is great. 10% armor kill on its own sucks. 3% armor regen on its own is fair on a skill build. You don't need much more on a skill build. Again, the smoke screen, right? Again, you got skills that are always shooting even when you're suppressed. So there's reasons why 3% armor regen is enough. And also we talked about the effective armor, which is 20%. You only need 20% armor to give you the confidence to shoot your gun again. So you only need enough regen to get you up to 20% armor quickly. So whatever that means, whatever quickly means to you. But so you could, if I was going to run 2 pieces of Uzina Getica, I'd still probably prefer 2 pieces of Bellstone, right? 1% armor regen plus 10% armor on kill. Now we're at 4% armor regen. So I think both the chest and the gloves could probably be swapped for a Bellstone and a second piece of Bellstone, or just one piece of Bellstone, or scrap it all. Don't go Uzina Getica at all, and go what? Cheska. Right? Or Fenris, or Grupo, whatever gives you the greatest damage or more consistent damage, whatever way you want to look at it, go with it. So I would probably look to probably go the damage side of things. I mean, you could go either way. I would just be inserting my opinion based on my play style, but all of those are reasonable. Cheska, probably Cheska because of all the investment into crits. I'd probably end up going Cheska. And so by doing that, it would push him closer to 60%. He was at like 55%. And that would allow him to reroll one of his crit chance mods or attributes into crit damage, and thereby giving him more crit damage in the end. So that's probably what I would do. And as you can see, he's running Obliterate on his chest piece. I like the idea of Obliterate. It's different on a skill build. It's the same concept as running Kinetic Momentum, right? Do you see that? It's just picking a side. There's two sides to that coin, right? So there's one side of the coin says, well, you can invest into Kinetic Momentum and power up both your skills by 30%, or 15%, sorry, 15%. Or you can give 25% total weapon damage to your capacitor by going with Obliterate. Since he's got the crits, right? He's invested in the crits, might as well make more money out of it. So yeah. So either way, it's the same thing. It's like Kinetic Momentum, but it's the other side of the coin, right? It's the weapon instead of the skills. So he's interesting decisions. I like it. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know if I'd change it. I always like me personally, I always like that chest talent to go twofold if I can. So skills and weapon damage. So things like Spotter, which you can't do because you lose the capacitor. So that's always the challenge. Well, you can do it, but he'd lose a skill if he ran the Night Watcher mask. But Spotter or Glass Cannon, of course, goes to everything. Overwatch does as well. It's not as much, but does go to both skill and weapon damage. But Glass Cannon, I would probably end up running Glass Cannon on this build because I know how this build works, and so you'd still able to move cover to cover. You still got the bonus armor to do that. You got a really fast time to kill. I personally run Glass Cannon, but I understand a lot of people don't prefer Glass Cannon, so I get it. So Obliterate's great. Yeah, I like it. Does just talking about alternates there. So again, a Kinetic Momentum if you want to go skills, Glass Cannon if we want to go both, or stick with Obliterate if you think that's puts your weapon a little closer to being on par with your skills. So it's really easy to power up your skills. It's a little bit more difficult to power up your primary weapon in these hybrid builds. However, your skills combined still don't do the same damage that your primary weapon will. Funny thing, right? The paradigm there. So anyways, one of his other options is to actually run 2-piece Brazos here, right? So if we replace the gloves with Empress, then he could put Brazos on his chest and a Picaro holster, and he'd get 15% weapon damage plus the crits, plus the skill tier, naturally. And then he'd get skill haste, which we're not using that much, but that would set him up for the additional skill tier, right? And then it would set him up for the additional armor core. So now he's running 3 armor cores. 3 armor cores. That pushes him to 1.3 million armor, and that's meaningful. That is, and the reason why is because it plays out, and there's a collateral effect, right? And so that additional core is going to give him an additional 10% bonus armor when he grabs that trophy. So he's going to get 30% bonus armor when he grabs that trophy. And then that additional armor core is going to make it stronger armor regen for that memento. So pretty cool there. Pretty cool effect. So that's one way to go. The other way to go is if you're not going to go Brazos at all, if you prefer to stay away from Brazos, cool. Then I would actually change still move Empress to the gloves, and I put on Fox's Prayer knee pads. Same setup. Skill tier, additional, 8% damage to targets out of cover, and then crits. Crit chance or crit damage based on what you need. And that's because that is the one multiplier that he's missing. So he's got the highest damage to armor on the assault rifle. He's got health damage on the assault rifle. He's got obliterate. He's got 30% weapon damage coming off the backpack, which is not a multiplier, but it's just weapon damage. But he's got no damage to targets out of cover on our assault rifles, and we love to run that. So if you ran the Fox's Prayers, you'd be adding an additional type of multiplicative damage, which would create a great net benefit for you here. So really cool. And I like Blake 91's idea of a mechanical animal. You could totally do that. And I don't know, I would have to whether I would personally like that or not, but it would definitely make at the very least a really good secondary option. So instead of the KSG shotgun, every now and again just pop out your mechanical animal and get that overcharge and then switch back to your capacitor. So that's a really cool way to run. And for it, as far as it being a primary weapon, well, that just depends on how it felt. It just depends on how it feels. But I do find that builds with a lot of skill tiers and armor make a really weak mechanical animal. That gun doesn't have the best handling, and it's kind of got a lower RPM, so it does lack a little bit of burst damage. It is actually pretty strong base weapon damage. Other than that, it's the SIG, but I find without the weapon cores, it doesn't shine very well. So, and the capacitor actually gets weapon damage off of those skill tiers, so it can manage here really well. But the mechanical animal, at the very least, as a secondary weapon, I think is a really great idea. Get that overcharge. But yeah, so Fox's Prayers is the other way I'd probably go with this build. And I think that's probably where I'd take it. Outside of those minor armor regen stats, that's, I think, user's choice there. I think it's nice to have the little bit of edge, and I get that. So he's this is a balanced build. So I'm looking at lots of balancing acts going on here, and so that's what makes these builds really difficult to pimp, because they're based on that balance, and whether it feels good is subjective to you and how you play personally. You know what I mean? But I can tell that this thing, he put a lot of thought into this, and this is balanced based on how he plays, and it's probably just right. I bet you it is. So the only thing is, I would just think about the, like I said, it's all going to come down to that chest piece and the gloves, and I would probably almost definitely get rid of the contractor's gloves. I mean, I get it to have the nice little edge against armored targets, but for the legendary reasons, you don't really need it. Even for heroic, again, the capacitor's got the highest damage to armor. Nothing wrong with having a little bit more, but damage to targets out of cover would probably be the better way to go if you're looking for more damage overall. Outside of that, I'd probably look for two-piece Brazos. Either way, I'd be getting rid of that Uzina Getica. I don't think that net 5 or that total 5% armor, 5% total armor is going to add that much value. And then those armor regens, I'd probably personally take off those little armor regens. I'd have to feel it out, but yeah, I don't know. It's sort of hard to say. Sometimes a little bit of armor regens, like sometimes just 1% armor regen, it makes the biggest difference, because, and that's basically what that's adding up to. So those two minor armor regens basically add to 1% armor, just a little shy of that. And so if you're taking, and a lot of people don't know this, so like somebody that's not super experienced playing up close and personal in legendary content might turn their nose up at that kind of armor regen. But the reality is that when you're an aggressive player or playing in tight and playing in quick and playing fast, then 1% armor regen or 2 minor armor regen stats can be a game changer, because that allows you to take stingers from chungas and then kill them while you're bleeding and not bleed out. Basically, it can be just enough armor regen to keep you from bleeding out, and that's all you need. And so, but again, we talked about it. Like if it came to trade off, I'd still probably go with one Bellstone if I had to choose between the two. The minor attributes or 1 Bellstone, I would take the 1 Bellstone over Xena Getica and the minor attributes. So I would still take that over those. Would I have both? I don't know. I'd have to test the build. I'd have to find out. It's both would be great. Both could be great, or it might not be working for you. The additional minor attributes. That just depends on how you play and if you're getting up and close and personal to those chungas. But and so you might be happy with just the Bellstone chest piece and then roll the rest into crits, and you're good to go. Or run 2-piece Bellstones and get your 10% armor on kill on top of the armor regen. You should probably getting a kill at least once every 10 seconds, wouldn't you say? And your skills can get that proc armor on kill for you. So lots of different, that's the magic of this build and one of the highlights of it and why it shined so well when we were also doing Smurf Piss Blues build, where we ended up coming up with the Terminator build with 3-piece Brazos, which I love. But that's what shines about this build, is that you can go so many different ways based on your perspective. But remember, is it the right build? Does it do what it says it can do? Is it effective? And is it fun? And if you can do all of those things, then it's an amazing build. So, yeah, lots of different ways you can go with this build. I guess is my point. You can go Wyvern, you can go all yellows, you can put another red core, you can do Brazos. So, tons of fun, tons of fun. So that concludes our Pimp My Build series. Let's pound it out.
Are you ready for some world-class vocalization? Yo, Brennan, break them off a little something, something.
You're drinking sangria,
nachos, lemon heads, my dad's boat. You won't go down cause my dick can float. Put on your life vest, let's drop anchor. There's a nice lady, oh, I like to swank her.
Boats and hoes, I gotta have me my boats and hoes, boats and hoes.
There we go, boys. Thank you for kicking in with me through that. That was a lot to cover. We had 3. We're getting lots of submissions, so I love adding these, talking them out, and then working on them throughout the week as well. What up, David Shamerska? He asks, has anybody got a good PvP SMG build for Negotiator's Dilemma? Negotiator's Dilemma PvP. I haven't used Negotiator's Dilemma in PvP in a long time, but it used to be pretty damn good. Anybody still use Negotiators in there? Especially for assault rifle builds, though, I gotta say. SMGs, the trouble with SMGs is that it can be a lot of one-on-one exchanges, and so you might not be doing that much additional team damage because you're facing off with one guy and maybe you kill him, maybe he kills you, and then you're back at it again. Where I think one of the cool things about if you look at it this way with negotiators in a PvP format is that they can be just really good what do you call it, team support builds. Look at it like if you're running with a team or even with just randoms and you're all in a manhunt situation, is that you tag targets, stay in the background, man. Stay in the background. Don't go toe to toe. And I know that's a hard thing for the ego. I get that, because you know with in PvP you always want to step in front of the guy and go punch per punch, round to round, and see who's still standing. I get that, which is one of the ridiculous things with our PvP stuff, right? But that being said, like if you can manage to stay in the background, stay 5-10 feet behind the pack and just tag everybody and then focus on whoever you got line of sight on, and don't worry about killing anybody. I get it, I know, but just weakening them, and whoever's in the tip of spear can finish them off, or you end up finishing them off because you're doing that. stacking damage. That's really interesting. And so basically what I'm saying is that, you know, it is a little bit easier to use negotiators with an assault rifle. Everything that I just said in the last 2 minutes sums up to that. You know what I mean? And that's because it's, you know, it's great damage. There's not a lot of burst damage. You are missing a lot of, I'd have to take a look at the PvP stats, but remember, a lot of that crit hit damage bonus is coming from on kill. And so, and it stacks, and then it ends on engagement. And I'd have to look at the PvP stats, but you can definitely do it. So I'm not trying to discourage you too much. I'm just trying to say that you, if you can manage to do that, negotiators can be pretty wow, right? Like a nuisance, a hell of a nuisance, right? And so I would probably look at, let me think here. What chest? So if you want to go pure damage, you probably want something. I mean, I want to say Ridgeway's Pride. That's not pure damage, but I'm going against the pure damage concept. But I know the obvious thing is to go like Obliterate because you're doing the crits thing anyways. So I get that. That's great. And pretty easy to get that. Now, but you're going to have the crits anyways, so it's pretty obvious. Maybe a Fenris or a Cheska with Obliterate. Actually, I wouldn't do Cheska because you said SMG, and SMGs are going to bring all the crit chance that you need along with the gear set. So I'd probably do a Grupo or a Sokolov, I should say, if you're going to go SMG. If you decide to go assault rifle, obviously you have your Cheska Fenris options. But it would be interesting to go, if you're going to play SMG, I'd almost think about doing a Wicked concept, you know, or Sadist with Ridgeway's Pride, and then crippling the enemy at the same time. You're going to get, gosh, this could be really interesting. If you like to go crazy, if you like to do screen record builds, which I like to do. And so what I mean screen record builds are basically builds where their screen is like, what's going on? They almost like throw their controller in the air because they're like, fuck it, I'm dead. And that's because they're bleeding, they're blind, they're riot foamed. You know, the screen is like all over the place, right? They're basically like glitched. So obviously Ridgeway's Pride, you can also do Trauma. But you know what should be interesting is like the Negotiator's Backpack is pretty handy because it gives you that additional damage to targets, and I get that. But if you did what's called Creeping Death, that could be interesting because when your target is bleeding, all right, they're slowed down, right? They don't move as fast. They're hunched over. They're crippled. So if your objective is to tag all targets, they'll be easier to tag for negotiators when they're bleeding and not moving as fast, right? So, but although they're also taking additional bleed damage, right, on top of the damage that you're applying directly or indirectly from Negotiator's Dilemma, right? Critical hostile negotiations, whatever it's called. So like, so it's a little off meta to go Creeping Death. I get it because it's not damage, but it is because you're applying bleed if you decide to go Ridgeway's Pride. So I really like the straightforward route, bro. The straightforward route is going to be like, you know, Obliterate, Grupo Fenris, a 4-piece Negotiators, probably Fox's Prayers or Contractor's Gloves, depending on where you want to go. I mean, it's not too imaginative there. And then, you know, probably the Lady Death for that amplified damage, right? And so, or you could run the Banshee if you decide to go the status effect route, or the Vector if you want to go RPMs, or MPX, the Apartment, if you want to go for speed and total weapon damage. So there's no real wrong way there. But I like the idea of, personally, is like, of doing I like the Ridgeway's Pride concept. And especially, even if you don't use Wicked and you're fast enough just to spray all your targets and getting them bleeding. And then what that does is it opens up your your SMG for really good weapon damage, which is Sadist. So Sadist gives you a total weapon damage modifier to bleeding targets, right? And so that's really, really good. What is it? 25% weapon damage, total weapon damage to targets that are bleeding. So very strong. It holds up to in sync, right? So it's really good comparable if you like in sync when it comes to how much damage you're putting out. So that's probably where I would go. I would go to negotiators with sadist on my SMG, and then pick your favorite. For negotiators, I kind of like the idea of doing something on the higher end of RPM, so like 850 or a higher RPM. That way you can spray your targets, spray and pray, and get like 2 or 3 targets. And then from there, it comes down to the backpack. To run the negotiator's backpack or not to run the negotiator's backpack. Probably going to want to try both. And then you have Wicked as an option for additional damage, which is going to get you on par with Vigilance. It's not quite Vigilance, but it's close. And make up a little bit more if you're going to for that lost damage that you have on your chest piece. So Sadist and Wicked and Ridgeway's Pride is probably where I would start. And then by doing that, that's also going to give you a little more survivability when you're 1v1, right? So the thing about negotiators is that you're going to be in a tough spot in 1v1s when you're stepping up against somebody with whatever, Hunter's Fury, Striker, Uzina Getica, all of the above. They're all going to probably get you on that 1v1 thing, right? So that's what makes it tougher with the SMG thing, because you're like, those guys are going to have SMGs and they're going to be, or assault rifles, and they're going to have like major advantage in a 1v1 situation versus a negotiator. So negotiators, so that's why it's kind of like, give yourself that little bit of edge by using status effects and stuff like that to hold them back so that you can catch up to whatever damage that they're putting out. And again, the idea is to nerf the entire team, apply damage, take guys down that you can't even see because you had tagged them. So amazing. And there's some little nuances, you probably know them by heart. I don't have them by heart, but there's nuances in negotiators and how it works. I can't remember what it is, like how it works in PvP. It's pretty straightforward in PvE, but in PvP, there's little situations where it does and doesn't work. I can't remember what they are by heart though, but I'll let you account for that. It looks like you're already on your way. But and it says here, I made a backfire SMG all hazard negotiators demo that works well in PvE. I use y'all on vests. I have that same build actually. I created. It's been a long time. I created a long time ago, but I created it for PvE, of course, because I mostly do PvE, and it does work really well actually. Yeah, I did a backfire negotiators SMG build for PvE. It's a little squishy. As is negotiator, so it's a definitely a play from cover SMG, but there's nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing wrong with that. Anyways, if you do decide to try out the Ridgeway's Pride, complement it with some status effect skills, such as Riot Foam, and so now you're bleeding them and you're foaming them, and then put on a blinder. So yeah, don't worry about the cooldowns. You know, just get a quick pop them with the blinder. Then Riot Foam them, and then bleed them. You know what I mean? And then, you know what I mean? And even if he escapes, all good. He's marked. He's a marked for death target. And now anybody else you shoot, you're finishing off that marked target, right? So retreat, get back in cover, and then shoot on his friend or whatever. So really cool. Yeah, negotiators can be really fun in there. I know that, but it's just been a long time since I've used it. So in there, and actually in PvE too. Really nothing wrong with the gear set. It's actually one of the strongest, especially for legendary content, especially for solo legendary content. Best time to clears ever with that set. And that's almost why I stopped using it. It's like, okay, it's mastered. Nothing else to do with it. It's pretty straightforward gear set, right? Not much else to do with it. So, and that's funny to say, right? But some things are just like that in this game. It's like, it's done. No, I also used the hell out of it for a lot of content for many years, right? Because there was a while where we weren't getting any new gear sets. And so I ran nothing but negotiators for a long time. When it was released, it was like you either went negotiators or True Patriot. I picked negotiators, and I really loved it. But really loved it. So cool, guys. That's where I'm going to leave it for today. And I am going to do some streaming a little bit later, and then all week. So we will be kicking off this week, starting on Tuesday, with the Golden Bullet, and then I'm going to be trying to stream daily and giving you guys some great ideas for builds and putting some new builds to the test, as well as the 3 builds that you saw today. I will be posting the build video in the morning. We'll be going live in the morning, so look forward to that. And then look forward to hooking up with you guys all week and getting some. I guess is the best way to put it. Hey, so if you got a build that you would like me to pimp, don't forget that you need to just join us on Discord. And then there's a channel on Discord for Texas Players Club members to go ahead and drop their build. And so if you don't know how to get in there, just make sure you knock on Latina's door and she will show you the way. All right, everybody, peace out. Thank you for hanging with me. I know this one was a little bit longer than usual, but I had some catching up to do. You know what I mean.
Tuxedo out.